All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the stream. Welcome if you're new. Thank you guys for joining me today. We have some, I'd say, pretty interesting topics to go over and talk about. More topics than I expected, considering how quiet of a week it's been. But some of these topics are, I mean, they're going to generate some conversations, that's for sure. I think that not everybody's going to be in agreement, but yeah, you know, it's something that I still want to cover with you guys and go over. So one of the topics we're going to be discussing, I mean, as you can see, I put in the title, PlayStation exclusivity will always be important. That's actually not me saying that. I mean, I'm sure you guys already know how I feel about that, but we actually have a bit of a follow-up from former PlayStation executive Shawn Layden, where he talks about PlayStation exclusivity. He was recently on a podcast, and he essentially just emphasized that, yeah, exclusivity is always going to be important. Now, it's interesting because he did recently talk about exclusivity also being the Achilles heel of these huge blockbuster games. And so I think this kind of is a bit of a clarification on what he is really trying to say here. We're also going to be talking about Sea of Thieves and specifically some Xbox games coming to PlayStation. Sea of Thieves is actually killing it right now on PlayStation. It's doing seemingly big numbers in terms of pre-orders. And so I think that it's safe to say, if this is an experiment that Microsoft is doing to see if they can make more money, I think they're feeling pretty good right now. We're likely going to see more Xbox games coming in the not too distant future because, yeah. Anyway, we'll talk a little bit about that. We're going to be talking a little bit about Stellar Blade, and I have some bonus topics as well that we'll discuss if there is time. So, all right. Before we dive into any of these topics, you guys know the drill here. Hit the like button to help the stream out. You're saying happy birthday to Herman Holst. I didn't know it was his birthday. That's pretty funny. Yeah, well, I guess happy birthday to Herman Holst, man. But yeah, hit the like button to help the stream out. If you guys want to support my channel and the content directly, there are 3 ways you can do that. You can become a channel member. You gain access to some exclusive perks. If you're already a channel member, consider gifting channel memberships, giving those, those without a membership, giving them access to some of those perks as well. Streaming an hour early? No, it's stupid daylight savings is what it is. Yeah, so the clocks, I think, moved ahead an hour. I lost an hour of sleep last night because that's just the thing we do. We still do daylight savings. I think it's stupid, but yeah, it's daylight savings. So I guess I should acknowledge that if the stream seems like it's occurring an hour earlier, from the normal time, it's because, yeah, that daylight savings. So kind of forgot about that. We're going to talk about Deviation Games closing as well. Yeah, I do have that listed here. My bad. I forgot to mention that. But yeah, you guys can also consider donating a super chat as well. Ask a question, give an opinion, make a statement, anything in between. It all helps tremendously. And so a big shout out and a big thank you to everybody who supports the channel directly. We're going to start here with the exclusivity conversation. Okay. Hold on. Well, all right. Actually, yeah. Okay, we're going to start with the exclusivity conversation. Irfan, you're saying it's getting really tiresome, not going to lie. It is, yeah. But unfortunately, it's like one of these things. I feel like it went from the dominant conversation piece was about acquisitions, industry consolidation, the Activision Blizzard deal, Sony versus Microsoft versus the FTC, so on and CMA, so on and so forth. I feel like it went from that to now it just flipped over to now the entire conversation is about exclusivity in general. And if there's something that has become so clear, man, is people are just ridiculous about their takes on exclusivity on across the spectrum. But the most ridiculous takes that I've seen, honestly, are the most simplistic. The ones where people are just like, yeah, exclusives are stupid and anti-consumer and shouldn't be a thing. And it's like, and then they just fail to elaborate. Like, they don't say anything more. And it's like, pretty sure there's more to it than that. I think everybody knows that. It seems a bit disingenuous to just paint it as one singular thing and then walk away from it. And I think this is just because there are people, they get involved in the conversations and they don't want to delve any deeper into them. Like, they don't want to see past, I guess, just, the simple statement of, yeah, exclusives are bad. But then there are also people that are like, yeah, exclusives are great. And then they fail to elaborate like why they're great. And so I think that the conversation is just unfortunately going to continue for the foreseeable future because we have Microsoft coming out here. They're bringing their games to PlayStation, and that basically kicked the doors down when it comes to this conversation about exclusivity. It doesn't help that Sony is not doing their best right now, financially speaking, with their profit margins, which we've talked about at length. But, you combine those two things and it creates this potent discussion and viewpoint of, well, exclusives are bad and they got to go away. And it's like, well, I hate to break it to anybody. Exclusives are never going to go away. They're just not. Like, it doesn't matter what happens in the long run, right? Like, consoles could disappear. Microsoft could bring all of their games to all platforms. It doesn't matter. In the future, there will still be different platforms. And as long as there are different platforms and different platform holders that have storefronts where they want to sell you the games, like there will always be exclusive content. It might not be permanently exclusive, but there will always be exclusive content to a certain extent. And so that's why I think people are under this, they have a misunderstanding and a misconception where I think they believe that if they just stand against exclusivity, and if enough people do that these companies, it's like, you know what? Yeah, we're not going to do it anymore. I think Microsoft has kind of, again, with them putting their games on the PlayStation, I think that they have, and it's understandable, they've kind of created that, I guess, notion in people's minds where it's like, if I stand against exclusives, then they'll go away eventually. It's like, no, they won't. Like, you don't have to love them, but they're definitely not going away. And it's funny to me because it's like, people, they get into the semantics of it. And it's like, well, nothing's actually exclusive anymore. It's all timed. And it's like, yeah, but does that matter? It doesn't. Like, you can call it you don't have to call it an exclusive, but it's still only going to be on one platform or one place for X amount of time. So it just makes sense to use the term exclusivity. I don't understand why people get so hung up. It reminds me like the conversation between like first party, second party, and third party. There are differences, obviously, and it's worth acknowledging those differences. But at the end of the day, it's like, very, very, very few people actually give a shit, when it comes to, well, what's the difference between a first party PlayStation exclusive and a second? Like for 99% of people, they see Rise of the Ronin, they see the PlayStation Studios logo, and they're like, oh yeah, it's a PlayStation exclusive. It's a Sony game. Sony made that game. It's like, yeah, basically. I mean, they don't own Team Ninja. They don't own the team that made the bulk of it. They own XDev. XDev worked on it. So, yeah. Anyway, yeah, exactly. Actually, you're saying, imagine how counterintuitive it would be if movie streaming services had no exclusive content. That's exactly what I'm trying to show people, where it's like video games and video game platforms, like regardless of where they end up in the long-term future, like there's always going to be the, I guess, inherent desire from these companies to be like, let's lock down something that you can't get over there. That's how we bring people in. What difficulty do I play Helldivers 2 on? I usually stick to like hard or extreme, but on occasion I'll go to like suicide mission or impossible or whatever. Gets a little too chaotic though. But let me read this stuff to you. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to read it in order. First, we have the article where Shawn Layden gave an interview and he claims that exclusivity is the Achilles heel of huge blockbusters. So it says here, and I know most of you probably saw my video yesterday, but it's important for me to add this context because we have a second Shawn Layden quote that I didn't cover in that video. That's very important. There's a huge amount of chatter about exclusivity in the aftermath of Microsoft's decision to port select titles to PlayStation and choppy waters in the industry at large. This year alone has seen thousands of game developers laid off as the industry attempts to course correct following overinvestment during the pandemic. But as budgets for tentpole titles like Marvel's Spider-Man 2 soar, many are beginning to question whether the traditional exclusivity paradigm is even feasible anymore. It's a topic PlayStation's well-liked ex-executive Shawn Layden has touched upon in a huge interview with GamesBeat. When your costs for games exceed $200 million, exclusivity is your Achilles heel. It reduces your addressable market, particularly when you're in the world of live service gaming or free-to-play. Another platform is just another way of opening the funnel, getting more people in. In a free-to-play world, as we know, 95% of those people will never spend a nickel. The business is all about conversion. You have to improve your odds by cracking the funnel open. Layden pointed to the recent success of Helldivers 2. Of course, Helldivers 2 is a live service game, so what does this mean for the platform holders' bread and butter single-player titles? If you're spending $250 million, you want to be able to sell your game to as many people as possible, even if it's just 10% more, he says. The global installed base for consoles, if you go back to the PS1 and everything else stacked up there, whenever in time you look at it, the total of consoles out there never gets over 250 million. It just doesn't. The dollars have gone up over time, but I look out there and I see that we're just taking more money from the same people. Layden believes that the industry needs to expand beyond its current market. We're not doing enough to get non-console people into console gaming. He noted, we're not going to attract them by doing more of the same shit we're doing now. If 95% of the world doesn't want to play Call of Duty, Fortnite, and Grand Theft Auto, is the industry just going to make more Call of Duty, Fortnite, and Grand Theft Auto? That's not going to get you anybody else. And we have a second article here. This is a follow-up where it says from VGC, former PlayStation boss, exclusivity will always be important. Former CEO of SIE America and chairman of Worldwide Studios, Shawn Layden, has reiterated the importance of exclusivity during a recent podcast appearance. Speaking to the What's Up PlayStation podcast, the former Sony executive spoke on the importance of first-party games and their function in the market. Quote, exclusivity will always be important. It helps focus and highlight the features of your platform. What can you do here technically that you can't do someplace else? But as your platform becomes established, as the market recognizes where you sit in that pantheon of gaming options, I think the necessity of exclusivity becomes a little bit less, end quote. And so it's also worth noting that in this same podcast episode, Shawn Layden was talking about PlayStation exclusives going day and date, single player exclusives going day and date on PC. And according to him, he says, quote, the juice is not worth the squeeze. I'll actually play this little clip for you here so you can hear exactly what he had to say. It's only 30 seconds.
So I don't see the same, there wouldn't be the same energy in my mind anyway, to take a single player game and make it day and date on multiple platforms. That doesn't seem to be, the juice isn't worth the squeeze on that one. You're still better focusing it on your platform and saying, if you want to have the next Spider-Man experience, you're going to have it here. And but again, for the massive multiplayer games or certainly free-to-play games, the market dynamic is different from that.
So, sorry, I know the volume was really low. Unfortunately, that is like as loud as it goes. But yeah, this is a pretty interesting, I would say, follow-up from Shawn Layden, because here's what Shawn Layden is basically pointing out. He's essentially saying the Achilles heel is the exclusivity for these massive budget games because, well, it's obvious. It's exactly what we've been talking about. It's the budgets of these games have ballooned so much that it becomes such a necessity where it's like, we need to sell, 15 million copies for this thing to truly like be profitable, right? Or 10 million minimum for us to even get some kind of return. And when you are making these games with these budgets, knowing that you can't, it's not that you can't achieve that. You can achieve that, but you're increasing the risk so much by limiting it to a 40, 50, 60 million install base. Even if you're limiting it to 100 million install base, like even if the games are cross-gen on PS4. And so the need to, expand in order to get more people to buy your games. I mean, this is kind of obvious, but this is where the conundrum lies, right? Like, well, okay, so then Sony should just go multi-platform, right? Like they should just drop the exclusivity, stop releasing your games on, exclusively on PS5, release it everywhere, release it on Xbox. If you can get it running on the Switch 2 in the future, release it over there. Release it on release it on PC day one and you'll make more money. It's like, but that's the thing, I think what Shawn Layden is basically pointing out here is that there is a problem that needs to be solved, and exclusivity is kind of part of the problem. But he then also says, but exclusives are always going to be important. Exclusives are always going to matter to PlayStation, right? At least when it comes to the single player side of things. And by the end of it, what he essentially concludes is, I think what most of us conclude is that, okay, well, when it comes to the big single player titles, which also happen to be the most expensive ones, don't worry about them. Just keep them on the PlayStation console. Just keep them exclusive. And then later on, you can release it on PC. But they're fine to be exclusives. When it comes to your multiplayer stuff, just put that everywhere. I feel like that's exactly what Sony's doing. But I just kind of get this sense that the solution here is not for Sony to say, you know what, we're going to make smaller games, as I've said. I think the solution is pretty clearly they're going to have to try to save money where they can, but the goal, I think, for Sony should be to see if they can actually increase sales in the console space, because that's something that Shawn points out. He points out that, listen, the console space isn't growing, right? Like, we are getting more money, but we're getting more money out of the same customers. And here's what I think we really need to kind of touch on here. We need to touch on, why is it that all of these video game companies feel such an intense need to go beyond these markets of 80, 90, 100, 110, 120, 150 million people? What is it? And that's the thing, is like, well, if I were to just kind of take a step back and think, all right, just think logically, just think common sense, why would they feel the need to do that? It is because of the budgets of the games, right? Like that, it's probably more than that. Like, there are probably layers to it, but it's most likely the budgets of the games. And so this is where I do think we are at a crossroads. I think the reason why Shawn Layden, it's like, in his first interview, he's like, yeah, exclusivity is the Achilles heel of these massive budget titles, these big PlayStation single player games. This is the Achilles heel. And then the next interview he does, he says, but exclusivity is always going to be important, and putting them day one on PC, the juice isn't going to be worth the squeeze. I think it just clearly highlights that we are at a crossroads, and Sony's going to have to make a very critical decision going forward, which, to be honest, I don't know that they've really decided yet. I think they're kind of just, going to wait and see maybe. But that decision that I'm speaking to is they have to decide, are we going to continue down this path of just making these massive budget games that are going to be $200, $250, $300 million and possibly go beyond that in years to come? Are we going to continue to do that or not? And if they choose not to, I mean, what is the end result for those games? What is the end result of a Naughty Dog game that doesn't cost $200 million, but instead costs $120 million? or even just 100 million. What is the end result there? How does the PlayStation fan base respond to that? How does the PlayStation market respond to that? How does the wider gaming market respond to that? Because it just seems to me that something's got to give, where if we are going to see Sony continue down this road where it's like, yeah, we have to keep pushing the technology forward. Like, people expect more and more and more from these games. They expect more from them. So it's going to just continue to be expensive and maybe even get more expensive. Therefore, the need to sell more than 10 or 15 million copies it's a need at this point. It's not even a want in order to justify this. And it's interesting because I talked about Nintendo yesterday and people were pointing out that MBG, listen, Nintendo isn't really part of this conversation because Nintendo is not making games with $200 million budgets. And it's fascinating because I feel like there's actually more divide with Nintendo than I realized. Where on one side, people love what Nintendo does and they're like, yo, I love Nintendo's games. Nintendo may not be making these photorealistic or, cutting edge games or whatever, but they're making amazingly fun games, really well thought out games. And I love them for that. But on the other hand, I see other people basically saying that, yeah, I don't really care for Nintendo games. Like, I like PlayStation's games better because they're trying to push the envelope with graphical fidelity on consoles and with technology and doing all these things that frankly Nintendo just isn't doing. And so I think this just kind of puts Sony in a unique position where Sony's solution cannot be what Nintendo does, because Sony can't just say, oh, okay, we're just going to make like the same types of games that Nintendo makes. Number one, that's not what their studios do, at least like 90% of them. And number two, at that point, now you're just trying to compete directly with Nintendo. Good luck. You know what I mean? Maybe Sony, if they really wanted to, could pull that off, but it's like, I don't know. It seems like that ship has sailed. And so it's just like this. I think the crossroads truly is either Sony's going to continue down this road and continue to make these types of games at with these budgets, and they're going to do so knowing that we need to sell more. We need to sell more than ever before, and we need to move these units, and at the very least, we need these games to move more consoles. At the very least, that needs to be, and that's, they either continue down that road or they say we got to shift. We got to go into another lane, and this lane is we need to just drop the cost of how much these games cost, like how much we're putting into these games to make them. We have Mrs. MBG saying, "Wake Bossy's lazy butt up, LOL." Also, everyone, please leave the stream a like. Well, thank you for that, Mrs. MBG. Yeah, I gotta be honest. Like, I was expecting, who here to start making his presence known, and basically, I don't know. Maybe I gave him too many snacks. Maybe he's satiated now. You know what it is? I fed him early this morning, so that's probably why. Yeah, Boss is confused because of the daylight savings as well. Damn, dude. Boss is in a treat coma. He's okay. He's like, yeah. What? I'm sure he's gonna. Yeah. Now I think I woke him up. Now I think he's gonna start getting But anyway, so thank you for that, Mrs. MBG. But yeah, I just think this conversation is going to continue because, and here he comes. All right, I hope I hope you guys are happy. All right, well, You guys know what time it is. Thoughts on Stellar Blade's demo? I haven't played it, but I think it's awesome that they're doing a demo. I saw a little bit of gameplay, and it does look good. It's time for Boss to go to work. Get to work, Boss. This was all Mrs. MBG's idea. Yeah, it was. The 1222, you're saying I enjoyed my time with the demo. Yeah, that's crazy to me. People actually were able to download the demo and play it, and then Sony like revoked the license, so you couldn't play it anymore, which I guess was to be expected. All right, here you go, boss. I know. Enjoy, boss. I'm not even going to make him wait this time, bro. I'm not even going to make him wait. He's just, I know he's just going to sit here the whole time staring at me. And we have Exley Get Some Trismegistus coming in, dropping a 5 bomb for you guys. Exley. Hello to democracy. Wow. Thank you so much, man. Thank you for getting the membership train started today. Let's get some W's in the chat for our good friend Exley, always showing awesome support for the community, for the channel. Good stuff, man. Actually got excited because he's like, it's boss's snack time. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. I saw that one of the things that people were pointing out in the Stellar Blade demo is one of the outfits is basically like a skin tight latex suit. And it's like, okay, yeah. The devs know what they're doing with this one. They know the audience they're trying to appeal to. But yeah, I'm looking forward to them giving us the official release date of this demo. You think I need to interview Shawn Layden? That would be really interesting. But yeah, I mean, I think no matter what, honestly, I think no matter what, Sony is going to continue to embrace exclusive games. I do. I think that as long as Sony has a console that they're trying to sell, they will be doing exclusive games. But even beyond that, like I said not that long ago, even if the day comes where Sony isn't making a console anymore and the PlayStation brand transforms into just some kind of application that you can, you know, download on all your devices or whatever, and the console just isn't a thing anymore, even then, I think Sony's still absolutely going to have exclusives. But what I do think is fairly obvious by this point is that sorry, I'm laughing at Exley's comment there. What I do think is fairly obvious by this point is exclusivity will likely just be timed going forward. And I know that for some people, they're like, well, doesn't that defeat the point? Well, doesn't that defeat the point of exclusivity? Like, can it even be called, exclusivity at that point? It's like, well, yeah, I think it can. And I think that's just going to be the new normal in terms of exclusives. I think, not for Nintendo, but for Sony and for Microsoft. I think at this point in time, Microsoft is more likely to just drop exclusivity altogether, depending, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. But for Sony, it's like, here's the most important part of what Shawn Layden said. To me, the most important part is not where he said exclusivity will always be important. It's not that. It's not that. It's, let me go back to it here. Let me find it. Where's the, so he says, look, boss, please, man. You need to make up your mind, dude. Where do you want to go? The most important part of what he said, in my opinion, is this. He says, when your costs for a game exceed $200 million, it reduces your addressable market, particularly when you're in the world of live service gaming and free-to-play and other platform. Sorry, that's the wrong quote. It's the second one. He says, if you go back to the PS1, and boss is like, enough. It's my time in the camera. Are you guys seeing this? Of course you're seeing it. How could you not? I'll just give boss his moment here before I continue. He's clearly like, we don't want to hear any more MBG. Dude. He's rubbing up against my keyboard now. I've never seen him do that. He's always finding new things to do. No, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't chew that. That's gonna break. We already talked about this, boss. No. Bad boss. Bad cat. Please don't put your ass in the camera again. This is turning into a disaster. Come on. Dude, did you guys just see that? Did you just see that? He just pushed me. This cat just pushed me. No way. I just tried to pick him up and he was like, nope. He's like, get the hell. I don't think so. He's becoming defiant, bro. Truly. He's never done that. He's like, I don't think so. He's a bully. Yeah, dude. These streams are just going to turn into boss straight up bullying me. I can't believe that shit. And he's like, you know what? I'm just going to go finish my snacks. Anyway, thank you. Thank you, boss, for always keeping these folks entertained. Anyway, the most important thing that I think Shawn Layden pointed out here is he says, if you go back to the PS1 and everything else stacked up there, wherever in time you look at it, the total consoles out there never gets over 250 million. It just doesn't. The dollars have gone up over time, but I look at it and see we're just taking more money from the same people. See, that to me, that is the most important thing that Shawn Layden is saying, because, dude, think about it. We can have these conversations all day, every day about should Sony do day and date with their single player games on PC? Should Sony follow Microsoft and maybe start putting more of their games just out there, you know, to gain more sales, whether it's on Xbox or PC or otherwise, you know, like should Sony really hang on to this notion of exclusivity for their console? But that's the thing, is it's like a company can look at that and say, the console market isn't growing. It's just not, right? Like that's, as Shawn Layden says, it's just not growing. The console market isn't growing. We're probably going to sell 80 million, 90 million, 100. We're probably going to sell 100 million PS5s. Maybe it'll go beyond that. Maybe we could sell 120 million PS5s. And that's good. But here's the real question is like, you can maybe be concerned or even upset as an executive that like, man, we're not going past 100 or 120 million. But when you decide that that's not enough, like we need to go past that. We need to have more customers. We need more millions of people, tens of millions of people more than 100, 120 million. Boss. All right, hold on, guys. No biting my microphone. To put my foot down. You're saying it's best bet is to grow new markets, not PC, China, India, and Asia as a whole. More people equals more money. Yeah, that's an option. But my whole thing is like, yeah, if they do decide to go down that route where it's like we need to start putting even more stuff on PC and maybe consider even putting some of our live service games being full multi-platform, and who knows, this whole idea that Sony should drop exclusivity in the name of growing and finding more people, how does Sony know that they won't be doing that at the cost of their already established install base? Sony doesn't know that. That is the true important part of this conversation, is that Sony can come out and say, hey, no way. You're gone. You're done. You're done, bro. There's no fucking way. This cat just started chewing. He's hiding now. He knows what he did. He just started chewing my USB dongle for my Pulse Elite headset. Is he serious? This is getting out of hand. I can't believe he just did that. He's legitimately becoming a bad cat. Boss, you're becoming a bad cat. This is how you thank me? That's for waking him up. I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to have this conversation with you, but boss is like reaching next levels of fuckery here. He's purring now. He must enjoy this, but Boss Unchained. I love that. Boss Unchained. We have 18 May with a $20 super chat. 18 May, thank you so much for that, man. You're saying here, MBG, help my wife. Told me she's moving from Cali to Florida if I don't stop playing Stellar Blade with the skin suit outfit. W tan line. Question, can you order an Uber cross country for someone, or is it not possible because of trolls? I actually, well, for the second part of your super chat, I have no idea. I feel like you're going to have to defer to the chat here. Chat, is it possible to order Uber across the country for someone? I mean, I know the implications of this, or I know what you're saying here, but I don't think I actually have an answer to that. Yeah, dude, it's so funny because the conversation around Stellar Blade, and I don't know. It's not like I guess it's not a bad thing, but it's like, sheesh, man, is the conversation is so hyper focused on this character's body, and I will say the developers are not helping by putting like the skin suit, the latex outfit or whatever. It's like, holy shit, dude, you may as well just make her naked at that point. I mean, seriously, like, you may as well just do that, because that's obviously like what you're doing here. And you know, like the devs are smart though, because they know that this is kind of going against a lot of the, stuff that that people have been getting like frustrated with. And I think it's smart for the devs to lean into it, but I'm almost at a point where I'm afraid, like, I hope the game doesn't get overshadowed by this. You know what I mean? Where it's like the gameplay itself, like if you actually look at it, it looks really good. Like this game just straight up looks like it's going to be a very good game. And I hope that if it gets a lot of recognition, I mean, I hope it's, the conversation moves a little bit past that, but yeah. 18 May, that's, I'm not going to give you any advice here, bro. I'm just going to tell you, do what you got to do. I feel like that's the best thing I could say to you. But I appreciate that super chat. I almost said super chat, man. Devs understand gamers. Yeah, again, I feel like we're just seeing like extreme opposites of things happening, where it's like there are certain character models being created where it's like it looks like certain characters were beat with an ugly stick. And I know that sounds brutal, but it's like, I mean, it's fine. Not everybody is like a beautiful supermodel. That's totally fine. But at the same time, you see like with some characters, it seems like they're kind of going out of their way to like, okay, well, that's one way to make your character look, I guess. It almost looks to me like, so, how sometimes you see in the character creator, like these games that have really in-depth character creators, where it's like people just make these really strange looking characters. Like they go out of their way to make them look strange. I feel like we're starting to see developers kind of do that with some of like the main characters in video games now, where it's like, okay, I mean, all right, that's one way of doing it. But now we're seeing developers go in the opposite direction where they're like, all right, well, we're going to counterbalance this, That's what it starts to seem like to me. You're saying there's another tweet or another quote from Shawn Layden coming from Zubitech. All right, let me see if I can bring that up. Quote, and this is from Shawn Layden, PlayStation was never a first-party driven platform. If you look at Nintendo and Sega in the 90s, their first-party output was the lion's share of the software market. You could publish on N64, but the top 10 games were always going to be Nintendo games on there. PlayStation always began with a third-party focus of the platform business. First-party isn't there to steal market share from EA or Square. First-party is there to grow the pie bigger. Interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting quote from Shawn. Yeah, I don't know. What's really interesting to me is that it's interesting to be hearing from Shawn Layden so much lately and hearing his thoughts on PlayStation, knowing that he was the last person in charge, I believe, before Jim Ryan. And I remember when Jim Ryan took over, so many people were like, no, Shawn, come back. We miss you. Like, you were better. You were the best. And now Jim Ryan's gone. And again, it's just the timing is like, I really do almost wonder, like, would Sony consider bringing Shawn Layden back? Would Shawn want to go back? I think Shawn would want to come back. I'll be honest with you. If Shawn had the opportunity to come back and run PlayStation, I think he would do it. Because he was with Sony for over 30 years. Maybe not, though. Maybe he'd say, nah, I'm good. But it's just so interesting to hear him talk about this because, yeah, you do have to wonder like how Shawn Layden would be as the current head of PlayStation. He's working at an NFT company. Well, that's quite unfortunate. Yeah, maybe it's best we get somebody new in. I don't know. We'll see how regrettable that ends up being. We got this new young CEO who doesn't quite understand the PlayStation brand. Hopefully not. Shawn Layden. Shaladism. Oh my God. Shaladism. Wow, Gaming Survivor. I feel like you had that one locked and loaded, ready to go. You've been waiting to use that one. Josh Z with a $10 super chat. Thank you so much for that, Josh. You're saying, MBG, I'm only about halfway through Rebirth. I'm literally spending 10 plus hours a day with it. I'm most impressed by the character interactions. It's clear that this is a passion project for all involved. 10 plus hours a day, man. You're no lifing Final Fantasy. That's what I did with Final Fantasy 16. I don't know if it was 10 hours a day, but it was definitely most of the day. That's how I played Final Fantasy 16. Can't say I'm playing Rebirth the same way right now. Just have, I guess, more things going on. So I probably right now have about 10, 12, maybe 15 hours. I have to check. So I'm really not far in it. I've still been playing Helldivers, but yeah, I haven't been gaming as much the past week or so personally. But yeah, I'm when I have been playing, I've still been really enjoying it. And It does, it's a little bit intimidating. I got to be honest, man. Like the size of this game, I feel like even though I've put like 10 or 12 hours into it, I feel like I've done almost nothing. But you're saying to you, it's about you're most impressed by the character interactions. That's what I'm looking forward to, because I mean, when I was talking to you guys about my time with Final Fantasy VII Remake, I was like basically highlighting to you guys that, boss, I'm sorry, bro, you can't chew that. You gotta go. You gotta go. I was highlighting to you guys that like it really is the characters. Like the characters are really interesting. They're really, like you're saying here, their interactions. It's just I can see why these characters have kind of stood the test of time, and why people are always like, yeah, Final Fantasy VII is the best Final Fantasy. And I played 16. Like I said, I thought the characters in Final Fantasy 16 were amazing as well. But I do think that in terms of just overall character development and interactions, yeah, it's like, yeah, I could see how this is the standout of the game, no doubt about it. So I'm really interested as I get further in the story to see how it evolves. I will say that they do seem to be very good with these characters at like getting you like kind of emotionally invested. That's what I've noticed. That's how I felt at the end of 7 Remake. Like I really felt like, man, I kind of went in not really caring that much. And by the end of the game, I'm like, yeah, I feel like somewhat emotionally invested into these characters and their stories, and I, just kind of finding out what happens next. So I'm trying to avoid spoilers as best I can. Luckily, I haven't been like exposed to really anything. So when I get more time, like when I get deeper into the game, again, I don't know how long that's going to take, but when I feel like I've, progressed the story in a more significant way. Right now, I will say, I have no idea how long it's going to take me to actually complete the story, because right now, when I'm playing the game, I'm like doing all the side content, all the open world stuff. So it might take me a while, but I'll definitely talk about it more, certainly. At least I'll try to. I don't want to, again, I don't want to spoil anything for anybody. So Josh, I appreciate that, man, and I'm glad to hear you're enjoying the game so much, dude. We have ACM with a $20 super chat. ACM, thank you so much for that, buddy. It's very kind of you. You're saying, how crazy would it be if PlayStation gets Donald Trump as the new CEO? Wait, ACM, were you the same person who said the same thing basically, but if it was Elon Musk, or was that somebody else? Because I know we had somebody super chat that as well. We're like, how crazy would it be if if Elon Musk was the next PlayStation CEO? Oh, God. I think I just drank a bunch of cat hair. That's disgusting. That was you, ACM? Okay. I appreciate these super chats. Every week, ACM's like, how crazy would it be if insert insert name, if this person was a CEO? Well, I mean, Donald Trump is a businessman, so something tells me, though, he would not want to be the CEO of a Japanese company, like Sony, PlayStation. Also, I mean, you have to question, like, what does Donald Trump actually know about games? Like, you mentioned Elon Musk last week, and it's like, at the very least, Elon Musk, I guess he plays video games, right? Like, he has some kind of understanding of video games. It would be so weird. Not going to happen, though. 0% chance, ACM. I'm sorry. But thank you so much for the super chat, buddy. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the support. Read him and Weep says, YouTube is pissing me off. Since the last update, I don't get notifications. I reset the app, and it was working, but now they've stopped again. Yeah, I see a lot of people saying stuff like that. YouTube is always doing back-end work. Like every month, they're like working on new updates and stuff. And every time there's like a certain point every month where I see kind of like an influx of people saying that like I'm not getting notifications, I have my stuff turned on, but nothing's happening. It's annoying because it hurts me as well. As the content creator. But let me get back on track here. So to continue this conversation with the exclusivity talk, there's a lot of people I would say right now saying like this is what's going to happen. This is what Sony should do. This is what I think they're going to do. There's so much 18 May, I see you. There's just so much speculation, I guess, about Sony's way forward. And, we're seeing exclusives kind of get demonized here. And that to me is something I don't think that's a smart way to go about it, because it's like, if you can't see why exclusives exist, why they were there to begin with, and why they will likely be there in the long run, I think you might just be missing like a huge part of the equation, when it comes to understanding like how the gaming industry works, how most of these things work. I mean, could we see a totally exclusiveless future? I mean, it's certainly possible, but I don't think something like that would happen for many, many, many years to come. I think to be honest, I think it's more likely that Sony would be willing to actually try to shrink some of their games a little bit before they'd be willing to just say, you know what, we got to just not continue with the console priority. And I don't know. We really do seem to be at some kind of crossroads in the video game industry right now. I saw that too. Former Xbox boss Peter Moore recently said that he's sure Microsoft is having conversations about bringing Halo to PlayStation. He also mentioned how Microsoft is probably questioning the future of the console. And this is what I mean when I talk about a crossroads, like everybody, I think, feels this kind of, like there's like this unease in the air where it's like, is the future just PC gaming? Is that really where we're headed? Is the future one where consoles really just don't have a place anymore? Or, you think about the new ways in which younger gamers are interacting with video games, where it's like, how many of them feel the need to go out and buy a console versus how many of them have the expectation that I should be able to just access this stuff anywhere, whether it's on my phone, my computer, my TV, whatever it might be, right? And I can understand, like, from Sony's point of view, where they're like, all right, well, we don't want to fall behind, right? If there's going to be some kind of paradigm shift in the video game industry, we don't want to become like the dinosaurs, right? So I understand that, but I don't know. I just think that people need to... I think people need to just kind of realize that there are problems across the board with the video game industry, because when we talk about the video game industry, like, we're not just talking about consoles. Hold on, guys. I gotta. He's shedding, and yeah, I just can't. I can't. There's too much hair. It's everywhere. I'm gonna end up having a full-blown allergic reaction or something. How heavy is he? He's not that heavy. I don't know how much. I'd have to weigh him, but he's not that heavy. I'll bring him back in later, maybe. We'll see. He didn't even finish all his snacks. He didn't even finish all of them. But anyway, every stream. Anyway, I think it's worth noting that it's not just Sony or Microsoft exclusively that are having problems right now. It is the entire video game industry, and that extends to everything. Not just single player games, not just AAA games, not just live service games. We're talking about mobile games, right? We're talking about everything. And my hope for Sony is that they don't they don't overreact, right? Like, to me, that's the biggest fear, is an overreaction. And it's interesting because I feel like the overreaction may have already occurred. Possibly. I don't know. But when I look back at like 2020 during the launch of the PS5, it didn't feel like there was any type of overreaction. I mean, there was obviously a massive inflation across the board for all video game companies, where it's like, all right, we're making more money than ever. Our numbers are going up. And it's interesting because I almost feel like that is what caused the overreaction. And now we're seeing like an overcorrection, where the overreaction, I think, came in the form of all these companies seeing their numbers just go up substantially and then allowing themselves to believe that we can just go further from here. And I think that they made all these investments, they made all these bets, so to speak, and now I think the reality is bearing down, and it has been, where it's like a lot of that was artificial. A lot of that was because people had no choice but to be inside and they were bored, and we're not living that way anymore. You know, we're back to normal mostly, where people are going out now, people are living their lives. And so the market kind of, the market just ballooned artificially, and now it's shrinking back to its, I guess you could say, normal size. And my fear is, like, I hope Sony is aware of that. Like, I hope that maybe we did see the overreaction from Sony already, where Sony was like, hey, things are booming. Let's do some crazy investment into live service. Let's do some crazy investment into mobile. Let's buy these studios. The money's flowing. Let's just flow with it. And maybe now the answer isn't necessarily, Bungie as well, obviously. Yeah. There was this video that I came across. I meant to bookmark it and I forgot. Maybe I could look it up another time. But it was basically this like YouTuber pointing out that the pre-order numbers are extremely concerning for the final Destiny 2 expansion. I would have been interested in watching that. They're chasing growth, but not sure how successful the growth will be. There's a limit to how many people want to play God of War, Call of Duty, Halo. And this gets us back to the fundamental conversation of, all right, it's kind of like what Shawn Layden said. How many people want to play Call of Duty, Grand Theft Auto, God of War, Halo, stuff like that? We're not growing that audience. Like, there's a limit to the number of people who want to play stuff like that. And this is where I do kind of hate the corporate stuff, dude. I absolutely hate the corporate stuff. This is one of the biggest problems I had with Xbox years ago. And some of you guys who've been around here for a while will know this, is it's like, I always kind of bitched about the fact, like, why isn't it enough? Like, why can't 20 million copies of God of War be enough? Like, why is it like we need to have 40 million, or, you know what I mean? Or 30 million? Like, why is it just never enough, dude? And I feel like this is where these companies make these huge mistakes, where they're like, we're so desperate for growth and expansion that, we'll do whatever it takes. And then that's where they make their biggest mistakes. I mean, yeah, I guess it always kind of comes back down to money and greed, but shit's annoying, dude. Like, at what point is it just like, maybe just focus on growing slowly? I mean, slow growth is not no growth. Chef Bobby G with a $5 super chat says, it's funny, Microsoft/Sony are nearly partners in many things, but Xbox/PlayStation are enemies. Numbers are going up, but so does internal prices. Yeah, that is true. As like corporate entities, Sony and Microsoft are really not like really much at odds with one another. And it almost seems like in some ways, some of their goals even align where they almost seem like they'd be good partners in some sense. But yeah, in the gaming sector, they're just, I don't know, even that's changing though, man. And that's what's crazy about it is, Microsoft is now just using Sony to fund their own game development and to, they're using Sony's install base. And that's a funny thing too, is it's like, if anything, Microsoft is validating Sony's install base here, right? Sea of Thieves is like the number one best-selling game or pre-ordered game on PlayStation right now. It's like, shit, man. Growing slow is not what investors want to hear. And that's what gets annoying about it though, right? Because it's like, what's wrong with having a sustainable, healthy, slow-growing business model? Honestly, I know that the investors don't want to hear that, but maybe fuck them. In all honesty, then go invest. I see. This is why I could never be involved with business. Go invest somewhere else. I would do great things for Sony, let me tell you. I just don't care, man. Like, it's hard for me to care about that shit because to me, it all just, the greed of it all, the obsession with growth and greed becomes too prevalent. It becomes too apparent. And it leaves such a horrible stain on, I think, the things that it doesn't have to be that way. It's not just growth, it's making sure not to be left behind. Well, see, that's what's funny to me though, is like I get that notion as well, but I don't know, man. I think Sony just needs to be careful. I do. I think they need to be careful about how aggressively they try to shake things up. I think the most aggressive they got recently was with the live service push, and I think they got very lucky with Helldivers, and I think everything else is basically like a massive question mark or X, And we got Exley Get Some Trismegistus coming in again, dropping another 5 membership gifts for you guys. Exley basically dropping a 10 bomb on you guys today. Let's get some W's in the chat.
Say hello
for Exley.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Let me add that to the counter. Thank you, man. Thank you so much for continuing to gift out memberships here to the community. Really appreciate that, actually. Good stuff. Dark Demon Media says, thank you, actually. I understand the whole notion of not wanting to get left behind, but I just think, it reminds me of the hare and the tortoise. That's what it reminds me of. And I think in this case, Sony doesn't need to worry about being the hare. And I think it is okay to be the tortoise because I just think at the heart of it, there has to be something more than just a fear of getting left behind that drives you forward. There has to be something more than just sheer greed that drives you forward. And maybe that's too idealist, but considering Sony Sony is an entertainment company and PlayStation is, an entertainment brand, essentially. It seems obvious to me that there has to be more than that driving you. And when I think about the idea of Sony making their games, putting these studios up to $250 million. Yeah, it's impossible for me to turn and be like, oh, if you decide that you want to drop those games on PC or find ways to reach larger markets and more players, it feels almost impossible for me to to push back against that, because that doesn't even necessarily feel like greed as the prices continue to rise. But I'm assuming there's going to be a cap on this at some point. There has to be. And whenever we reach that cap, and when I talk about the cap, I'm talking about like, okay, how expensive can these games really become? Like, there has to be a true upper limit where it's like, all right, this is basically it. And yeah, at least for now, right? At least for like the foreseeable future. When that happens, yeah, that's true. I guess Nintendo would be like the tortoise here. They're laughing all the way to the bank. That's true. That's true. Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, it's I don't know. I'm a little bit all over the place with this conversation, but it's interesting that you mentioned Nintendo being the tortoise here. Because I guess it's like, well, Microsoft could be the hare. Nintendo could be the tortoise. Where does that make Sony? Because I do feel like Sony is kind of in this strange in-between where Sony seems to be trying to do everything, right? Where it's like, yeah, we want to put the console at the center of it. We want to have our own ecosystem at the center of it, and we want to sell that console. We're going to have big AAA single-player exclusive games, some of the best and most expensive in the business, and we're going to use them to sell our console and to sell our platform. And we're also going to have live service games, and these live service games are going to be multi-plat. They're going to be everywhere, and they're going to make us a bunch of recurring revenue. And we're also going to pursue mobile. I mean, I don't know how that's going for Sony, but hey, we have to continue to pursue mobile because mobile might be the future of gaming, right? And we also have to focus on expanding PlayStation Plus. You know, we also have to worry about, you know, we also have to worry about how much time we should leave in between putting our games on the PC. I don't know, man. It's a complicated situation, and the more I talk about it, it starts to almost feel like the more complicated it becomes, because it's just as I delve deeper into each of these different categories, so to speak, I begin to realize like, okay, yeah, it's not as simple. Like, it's not as simple as, man, Sony shouldn't do live service. It's not that simple. It's also not as simple as, man, Sony should never put any of their games on PC. And it, like, could it be that simple? Yes, it could, but it's like there's no reason in even thinking about that because we're way past that point by now, you know? It's like I still see people in my comment section sometimes who are like, man, Sony really needs to stop putting their games on PC. Like, they're really starting to devalue their console, and I think they're really going to hurt their, you know, the PS5 and their consoles going forward. And it's like, even if I did agree with that, which I'm not saying I do, but it's like, even if I did, it's like, it doesn't matter. You know, like, we're so far beyond that point where it's like, you know, it's been years and it's not going to stop. It's just going to increase. As more, you know, as time goes on, we're going to see more and more PlayStation games go to PC. And I will say this. It doesn't seem like it's hurting console sales yet, if it's going to. That's something that I think is worth pointing out as well, because the big concern is like, if Sony does this, is it going to hurt their console sales? Well, I mean, you know, they seem to still be doing okay. And that's why it's like, you know, I see people leave comments on my channel where they're like, oh, I'm going to go to PC now. There's no reason for me to have a PlayStation. It's like, all right, well, that's cool. But the question is like, how many millions of people are saying that exact same thing? You know, is it millions of people? Is it hundreds of thousands of people? Is it tens of thousands of people? Because there's a big difference there. And it's just weird because it's like, I'll put it to you this way. If somebody were to leave a comment on, you know, a video like Ghost of Tsushima going to PC, and they left a comment and they said, well, there's no reason to own a PS5. All these games are eventually going to come to PC, so I'm not, I'm going to sell my PS5 or I'm not going to buy it. I'm going to go to PC. And that comment gets like the most upvotes. It gets like hundreds of upvotes, right? It's like 300, 400 upvotes. But like even then, it's like, does that really represent anything of significance? I mean, truly, like, does it? I don't think so. Like, I just don't. I don't think that actually represents anything. Like, that probably represents like 0.01%. And maybe the same can be said for people who advocate for like aggressive exclusivity as well. The same thing could probably be said for that. So I guess the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I just wonder how much of this Sony actually takes into account when making these decisions. Why would you sell your PS5? Yeah, I don't think that would be a good thing to do. Devil Shooter saying, MBG, I disagree. PS Plus stalled. Games are selling less. I believe it's having its effects. Yeah. Yeah, it does feel like at a time like this, there needs to be a certain level of foresight, right? There has to be a certain level of, all right, I'm in charge, I'm running the ship, and this is where we're headed. And we're headed in this direction because I know what's going to happen next. Like, there has to be a level of predictability, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And I just really wonder where Sony stands on this. I mean, we don't even have a proper CEO now that Jim Ryan's retiring. So I don't know if I don't even know if they haven't answered it to that. Like, I would just like to know, where does Sony stand when it comes to like, all right, Sony, really though, like, what is the future of console? Like, what do you see the future of console as? Is it something that, yeah, it's always going to be relevant to the PlayStation brand? Or it's something that's going to be declining soon? Or it's something that we're just going to support until we see it decline? Times are changing, man. But I guess the question is, how much does Sony need to change with the times? I think that might be the question. You're saying that PS5 is already a gaming PC. I mean, yeah, it to an extent, yeah. Like it is a customized console. Like, there were customizations made to it, but yeah, you know, the x86 architecture, you know, they're working with AMD, so I get what you're saying. I do find what Shawn said here, though, interesting. I didn't talk enough about it, but, you know, Shawn Layden says that exclusivity will always be important. It helps focus and highlight the features of your platform. What can you do here technically that you can't do someplace else? I think that is maybe truly going to be at the heart of all this when the dust settles, so to speak, right? Like, as we go into the second half of this generation, as we go into the PlayStation 6, like I do think that at the heart of it's going to end up being like, well, yeah, we have to show people like why they want to come to our ecosystem, why they want to come to our console. And even if the console is dwindling in relevance, which it remains to be seen if that's going to happen or not, the ecosystem will not, the storefront will not. Like, I think that's a big part of this that people continually forget. It seems like people who play on PC, they're on board with Steam most. I mean, yeah, there's Epic Game Store, but it seems like Steam is like the dominant factor, the dominant ecosystem, so to speak, or storefront on PC. And I just think that, you know, I I don't think Sony is looking at it like we're competing or like we can compete with Steam. I don't think they see it that way. I think they are in a way competing with Steam, but it's like, it's in a way that I would say is it's hard to explain. It's like the same but not at the same time. Where Steam is a storefront where they're like, we want you to come buy your games here. And I mean, yeah, it's interesting because Steam does, they do have their own hardware with the Steam Deck, and I think that they tried, because I saw people saying like, dude, what if Steam decides they want to make a home console? Right? Like, what then? And that's where I'm like, well, damn. See, that is an interesting thought to have. I don't know that they're ever going to do that, but it is an interesting thought to have, because it's like, yeah, that would likely be like fierce competition to the PlayStation console at that point. If it was like, if that's just something Steam decided they wanted to do, that would be fierce competition, because yeah. And there you go. You're saying you can already dock the Steam Deck. It'd be really interesting if Steam decided to make a console, because you would presume at that point they're going to have to make some games, some new games to sell that console. A Steam home console with all Sony games. MBG, Steam's biggest games are not on console. Even Valve knows the power of exclusives. Fascinating. Yeah. Yeah, I remember Steam tried to make consoles. I forget what they were called, like the Steam machines, but it was a crazy, like, they had like 20 different options or some shit. And they're like, I think it kind of proved that Steam didn't, or Valve, they didn't quite understand the console market necessarily, where it's like, it's about the simplicity of it, like like giving people like 15 and 20 options. While it may sound nice on paper, I think people are just overwhelmed, and you're like, how about I just buy none? I'll buy a PlayStation, or an Xbox. Yeah, that was interesting to see. And then, yeah, well, I don't know, man. I would like to know. I hate saying I don't know. I feel like I say that a lot, but I would like to know. I really would like to get some further insight from PlayStation, where they just be a little bit more, because I don't know. Do you guys feel like Sony's being clear? I mean, maybe they are. I guess we just kind of have to take it for what it is. I mean, if we let's put Shawn Layden aside here for a moment, because we do, Shawn Layden doesn't work for Sony anymore. PlayStation, as of right now, basically what they're saying publicly anyway is, number one, we have, big projects in the works. Number two, the PS5 console is still, at the center of what we do. Number three, we're still doing live service, but not as intensely. Number four, we're still pursuing mobile. Number five, we're still going to be aggressive with PC releases so we can make the most money possible. And number six, we're going to try to, not spend as much money or save money where we can to increase our profit margins. That's pretty much it. Like that, like when it comes to what Sony has told us, like forward facing publicly, that's about it. And it doesn't sound bad necessarily. It just, it's very, I guess a lot of it is open to interpretation, right? Like, hey, you said you have big games in development. I forget how they worded it, but they were like, yeah, we got these projects in the works. They're still being worked on. And then, you also say you want to get more aggressive with PC releases could you elaborate on that further? You know, like, are you implying that some of these games could, like some of these bigger games you're working on are going to drop on PC sooner? Or are you talking about your back catalog? You know, and this is where Sony, I assume they're purposely being vague about it. So that way they can, if they have to make any changes at the last moment, they can do it without upsetting everybody or, you know, misleading their shareholders or whatever. But basically that's what we know. And it feels like we're learning a lot, but nothing at the same time, you know? Nixxes is doing wonders for Sony. Yeah, Nixxes was a really good... I think Nixxes was a very wise purchase from Sony when they decided that they're going to start releasing more of their games on PC. Because I've always said, like, Sony, look, if you are going to release your games on PC, don't do a shitty job, you know? Like, that's just going to damage the brand and the reputation. And I think them getting Nixxes has basically ensured that... Because again, like, I think they kind of alluded to this in the blog post, but the Ghost of Tsushima... the engine they use is a proprietary game engine that they've never brought to PC before. So, you know, they brought in the pros, that being Nixxes, to be like, all right, let's worry about this so you don't have to. And that's the thing. Like, it is nice to know that Ghost of Tsushima, however long it took for them to port that game to PC, Sucker Punch didn't have to worry about it. You know, it didn't have to take up time or resources from Sucker Punch. Sucker Punch has probably been, you know, working away on a Ghost of Tsushima sequel. So that, to me, is the role that Nixxes plays. And I think it's a vital role where it's like, we don't want our development pipelines to be interfered with by this. Because, you know, development pipelines for these games they're making are already long enough, right? All right, let's see here. So yeah, to conclude this topic, I think it's clear. Like, I agree with Shawn Layden. I do think that exclusivity will always have a place. It will always be important, and I don't think it's going to go anywhere. I think we are going to see exclusivity change to a certain extent, where we're going to see more timed exclusivity than ever before. We're going to see companies like Sony and Microsoft, especially as we're seeing with Microsoft, get more loose with, you know, like their own stuff that would have once considered to be permanent exclusive, and then now it's not. And I think that, to be completely honest, I think it's just maybe wise at this point to not talk about exclusivity as if, yeah, it's just something that's going to go away or needs to go away, because I just, there's no indication of that happening across the board, and I don't think that's ever happening. So it's kind of somewhere in the middle, I guess, is the best way to put it. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see if Shawn Layden continues to talk about PlayStation. Where is boss? I had to escort him out of the room. All right, so check this out. I have this article here from WCCF Tech. The upcoming Sea of Thieves PS5 version is currently the best-selling pre-order on the US and various European PlayStation stores. The former Xbox console exclusive became available for pre-order on Sony's console some days ago, and as spotted by industry analyst Benji Sales, the pirate action-adventure from Rare is already topping the pre-order charts in the US. Rare's title is thereby beating pre-orders of other popular franchises, including MLB The Show 24, Dragon's Dogma 2, and Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree. Although Benji only mentioned the US PlayStation stores, the game is also topping the pre-order charts in both France, Germany, and even the UK. In Spain, the game is currently the third best-selling pre-order. We're delighted to share that Sea of Thieves is now available to pre-order on PlayStation 5, with 3 new additions hitting the PlayStation Store today, Rare wrote a few days ago. Keen Corsairs to... What? I'm not reading. I don't know what's going on here. Just ignore that last part. But yeah, the point is, Sea of Thieves doing work on the PlayStation storefront. Really got to wonder how Microsoft is feeling right now. Really got to wonder. You guys want me to bring Boss in? I don't think he's not chilling at the door. Just remind me in a little bit. I'll shake the snacks and see if I can get him to come back in. People want to be pirates. Venino, you're saying Valve growing the SD with Xbox and PlayStation exclusives. Yeah, that's the thing, man, is if you're Valve, you're probably feeling pretty good there, no doubt about it. This is, it's so, dude, I'm telling you, man, it's so funny. People are funny with the way they talk about PC gaming. I see everything, man. I see people come in and they're like, dude, don't listen to it. Like, PC gaming's easier than ever has been. It's fine. Like, it's really not that complicated. I still see people be like, nah, dude, it's still a nightmare. The one thing I will say that seems to be relatively true about PC gaming is that it does seem like the chances of a AAA game being broken or having like a lot of problems at launch on PC is like higher than it's ever been. Like, it's like there's a good chance this game's going to have issues. And I've seen that this is something PC players get like really upset about. And I don't know why that is. Like, I don't know if it's just maybe it's an optimization thing, but I don't know. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Is like, I see PC players who play on Steam, all the time being like, hey man, we're getting the best of all worlds here. It's like, I mean, surely there's some type of cost associated with it, right? There's some type of cost, right? Something? Maybe not. I don't know. But yeah, Sea of Thieves, man. Sea of Thieves, I have to say I'm quite surprised. I'm quite surprised to be hearing that Sea of Thieves is hitting the number 1 spot with pre-orders on not just the US PlayStation storefront, but across multiple territories. It's a $40 game. So, Microsoft is about to make good money on this shit. And what I find most interesting about this is when we look back to February, if we listen closely to everything that Phil Spencer said, to everything that Microsoft said, they made it clear that, like, we're testing the waters, no pun intended. We're testing it. And yeah, that's true. There's 3 different versions. I think there's a $50 version and a $60 version. And those are up there on the pre-order charts as well. And I think they made it pretty clear, like, look, we're testing the waters. We want to see how this goes. And the implication, it wasn't even an implication. I mean, they just flat out confirmed it that, like, if it goes well and we make good sales and we make good money, we will continue to do this. We will do more. And I to be honest, like, this to me is the confirmation that, oh yeah, dude. Yeah. Microsoft is fucking rubbing their hands together right now. Like, ooh, we're getting them PlayStation sales, baby. And how could you not? Like, dude, if you're Microsoft, how could you not? This game is years old. It's a live service game. It's probably done everything it's ever going to do for Xbox. And now you're about to just kill it and make bank. You want to talk about something that's about to make the shareholders very happy? It's that right there, dude. Yeah, and so I saw this too. This is very interesting to me because, dude, this was the game that was going to get me possibly back into the Xbox ecosystem. Well, hold on. All right. Well, that was quick. So there was another rumor. I don't know. It comes from some Xbox podcast. Maybe it was on the Gaming Leaks and Rumors subreddit. But so yeah, Jez Corden to the rescue. Let me see if I can. There's a rumor, according to Risk It for the Biscuit, he has heard from 4 separate sources that there is a Hellblade 2 port for PlayStation. Jez Corden replies by saying, I can confirm that as of right now, this is completely false. So, it's one of the, all right, yeah, I mean, it's one of these things where probably just best to wait for Microsoft if they're going to announce that at some point to do that. But it's just crazy. Like, if you're Microsoft right now, man, if you're Microsoft, Hellblade 2 is going to be a $50 single player game, man. If you're Microsoft and you're looking at these pre-order numbers for Sea of Thieves, and that's a multiplayer game on PlayStation. I don't know, man. I'd be sitting there thinking like, dude, what could Hellblade 2 do on PlayStation 5? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. No, you don't think it would do that much? Oh, probably wouldn't. I don't know that it would match Sea of Thieves. See, I mean, I am surprised, dude. I am. I did not expect to see Sea of Thieves like at the number 1 spot, man. Like, there's clearly some level of hype. And I saw people saying like, oh, yeah, all PlayStation fans have done is trash Xbox games. And it's like, not true. Like, there were a lot of, I've seen many people on my channel over the years basically say, yeah, Sea of Thieves is pretty good. Like, it's gotten a lot better. I haven't really seen much Sea of Thieves hate, to be honest. So maybe, maybe this is a, maybe this is one of the smarter moves that Microsoft is making here, leveraging Sony's install base. Some people are buying it on PlayStation so they can play with their friends on Xbox. It's wild. You're saying all this proves is that a lot of people just don't want to buy an Xbox. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I guess so. In a way. I should stream Sea of Thieves. I don't know. I haven't pre-ordered Sea of Thieves. I don't know that I'm going to end up playing it. I don't know that I have much interest. Like, I played it at launch for a little bit and I just couldn't get into it. I was like, maybe it was too bare bones. People have told me they've added so much. You're saying PlayStation owners clearly desire some of those Xbox games, I guess. Yeah, well, that's the thing, man, is there's no doubt. Dude, there's no doubt. Like, if Starfield came to PlayStation, it would be on the top of the charts. For sure. And Halo and Gears, like, they would be, and I think, I mean, I hate to say it, but I think it's kind of like, yeah, I think it does just prove that people don't want to buy the Xbox console. Like, and that's kind of, it's a strange thing. Well, maybe it's not that strange because it's like, think about it. Sony and Microsoft are essentially trying to do the same thing and offer the same things, Here's a console, and here's our exclusive games for that console. And a lot of the exclusive games we are making, we're not Nintendo. I think it's safe to say like Microsoft leans closer to Sony in terms of sheer, just pure competition than Nintendo in the studios they have, the type of games they're making. That's how I see it anyway. And so it's like when Phil Spencer said, yeah, we lost the most important console generation where now people are building their digital libraries over on PlayStation and we know like we're just never going to get them. Like we're never going to get them over here. And it seems that that evaluation is turning out to be completely true, in that it's not that they wouldn't play or even buy your game. It's just they're not going to buy your console to play that game. And they're not going to go to PC to buy and play that game either. And you know what else I'm wondering is, like, I'm wondering what Sony's thinking of this. You know? I'm wondering what Sony's probably not upset, because they're like, well, hell, dude, we're just getting free money. You know? We're just getting money from Sea of Thieves now, and we didn't have to do anything. But I do wonder how Sony views it from, like, you know, like, well, Microsoft's still going to make a console, and they're still going to have some exclusives, but they're also making all this money from our storefront. Interesting. Definitely something that I'd say Sony's probably, hold on. Sony, I would say, is paying attention, taking some kind of notes, maybe. You think Microsoft is worried about the live service push from PlayStation with Helldivers' success? Phil Spencer wants Helldivers 2 on Xbox. Yeah, I did see that, Michael. I covered that with the article, but I did watch that. I did watch the What's Up PlayStation podcast as well with Shawn Layden. It was a good podcast episode. You should go check it out. Excuse me. Yeah, Shawn Layden definitely gave some interesting insight, but the tough thing about listening to Shawn Layden talk about PlayStation is that he's not involved anymore, you know? He's not. So it's like, got to take everything he says with like a grain of salt to an extent, because it's like he has no power there anymore. And we have no idea, like, you know, if what he's saying is in alignment with, you know, those who are making decisions for PlayStation internally now. Yeah, he's basically giving his own opinion. I think one of the things that Shawn Layden is going to turn out to be complete, I think he's already kind of proven to be right about this, but he said he believes there does need to be more AA games. And I'm telling you, the thing that's getting messed up here is the conversation of like AAA versus AA. Like, when Shawn Layden talks about more AA games, he's talking about like 18 to 20 hour games, like 15 to 20 hour games, you know? That's a AAA, like with high quality, like that's AAA, dude. Like AAA has evolved, you know. It's. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I would even just say smaller AAA games. I mean, it almost feels like there has to be two different categories of AAA games. There has to be small AAA games, small to medium sized AAA games, and then the large AAA games. And the large AAA games are like the biggest of the big. You know what I mean? Because to me, getting a 15 to 20 hour experience that is of the same quality level that you would expect from PlayStation Studios, that sounds AAA to me. You know, like that. I don't think I would qualify that as a AA. I mean, if we're talking about like 8 to 12 hours, yeah, to me, that would be more like AA. Maybe with a slightly lower quality bar. Yeah, exactly. Spider-Man 2 is like 15 to 20 hours. That's AAA. $15, 20 hours costs about 100, 150 million. Like a Hi-Fi Rush kind of game. I don't know if I would say like that. That like Hi-Fi Rush to me seems like a AA game. How long is that game? I don't know. I don't know what the playtime is for Hi-Fi Rush. But this situation with Microsoft exclusives is fascinating because I do think that in the coming months and years, we're going to see Microsoft have a very, very different approach. Now, here's what I want to say. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I don't know if by the time we reach the next generation of consoles, I don't know if Microsoft's going to be full-blown third-party, like Halo, Gears, Forza, everything, Starfield. It's all on PlayStation. I don't know. It seems like there's a chance we could be in that situation. But I'm just gonna do a hypothetical here, where let's say Microsoft is planning to launch their next generation Xbox in 2026, holiday of 2026. That's the rumor, right? And let's say by holiday of 2026, Microsoft is full-blown third party. All of their games are on PlayStation. My question is, like, how does the Xbox sell at that point, dude? Like, that really is my question, because we see how the Xbox is selling now, where it's like, it's not selling well, and they still do have console exclusives. So it's like, how much worse? You know? What could it get? Holy shit. Man, it's really windy out there. I see Corey's back in the chat. What's up, man? Corey, I feel like you've been MIA, bro. Actually, no, you were there for that. You showed up at the Helldiver stream. Or for the regular streams. MLB The Show is actually number one now. Okay. Well, I guess that makes sense. You know? I guess that makes sense. That'd be kind of crazy if it was outdoing MLB, that'd be pretty crazy. And Corey comes in and drops 5 memberships for you guys. Corey,
Thank you.
thank you so much, man.
Dangerous to rely on.
There you go. Corey, you get Mark Cerny, bro. Corey's keeping the membership train going today. He brings us up to 15 members. Thank you so much for the support, bro. Thank you for continually showing support. And I actually, all right. Oh, okay, we're good. Yeah, if I mean, it is like extremely windy outside all of a sudden. So if my stream craps out of nowhere, you'll know it was the weather that did it, man. But yeah, I was just saying, like, I really, really do wonder if Microsoft goes all in by the time, you know, third party wise, by the time the next Xbox. And the reason why I wonder this is because, like, I don't know, if Sony does consider expanding more, you know, like, the answer we don't have or the question we don't have an answer to is, like, how's that going to impact the console? Like, to what extent? What percentage? We'll see. So many questions, so few answers right now, unfortunately. So did you guys see this story here? Check this out. I came across this on the Gaming Leaks and Rumors subreddit. All Adult Swim Games titles likely to be delisted by May. It sounds like WB is getting out of the small games business and are refusing to transfer ownership to the developers. There was an Ars Technica interview with one of the developers. And Says Warner Bros. Discovery, as part of its ongoing effort to stretch the definition of entertainment company, recently told a solo indie developer it would be retiring his 2016 dreamlike puzzle adventure game Small Radios, Big Televisions from the Steam and PlayStation stores. The developer, in response, has made it free to download for PC, giving us a rare chance to actually experience the thing that a Gigacorp has I never heard that term, Gigacorp, has determined to not be worth your time before it's wiped from the archives. In a thread on X, formerly Twitter, Tuesday, Owen Deary, a self-described small Canadian developer who works as Fireface, provided a few details and replies. Deary doesn't control the sale price of the game, but will still get royalties from the games while they're up. Otherwise, you could purchase the hard synth soundtrack as a show of support, which, in the author's opinion, is very good music for working or feeling a combination of nostalgia and magnetic disillusion at the same time. In an interview with the game developer, Deary clarified that the game will be pulled in the next 60 days. Deary noted that Adult Swim games hasn't really been a thing for many years now, and that most of the people he worked with had moved on. When you're working with purely digital products, nothing is going to stay around for very long. It's kind of depressing. I'm very proud of the game, but I can see why they did it. The reason given by Warner Bros. Discovery, as seen in the notice that game developers also reviewed, was internal business changes. Thank you for your contribution to your game library and understanding during this transition. We are available should you have any questions. And yeah, so it's not just this one game. It's like a whole list of games. It's every Adult Swim game. So that's a lot of games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26 games. All across mobile, PlayStation, Xbox, Steam. There's one game here for Ouya. They're all getting completely delisted and removed. And so, you know, one of the big problems that people have here is they're like, well, can't you just like transfer the licenses and whatnot? You know, can't you transfer the license over to the developers? And one of the developers, I think, was kind of complaining that like WB is just like refusing to do it. And it's literally all you have to do is just fill out a form. Or it like has something to do with Steam, like transferring the licenses and whatnot, and they're just not doing it. And this is why I'm just telling people, like, dude, the digital only future fucking sucks. It just sucks, man. But you know what doesn't suck? Actually, get some Trismegistus dropping another 5-bomb on you guys. That definitely doesn't suck. Exley's putting in work today, bro. Exley dropping 15 gifts in total, and we have Kiri 86 re-upping his membership as well, coming back to greatness awaits. Kiri 86, thank you so much for that, man. And Exley, you know I gotta keep doing it, man. Thank you guys so much for all the support. So we're now sitting at 21 members. We're just 4 away from hitting our goal. So I'm glad I gave Boss some treats already, because it looks like we are going to hit. It seems likely we're going to hit 25 members today. So good stuff, guys. Thank you so much for all the continued support. But holy shit, man. Digital only future. I like, this is why I'm saying, look, this right here is the problem. When things are produced digitally only, we have no power at all. It doesn't matter what you think. Like, you could say like, oh, I doubt this game. You know, I doubt anything will ever happen. Like, I'm not going to lose my library. It's just, dude, shit like this happens. Like when the point is, when these corporations they will decide for you. And that's what sucks, dude. Is like, in this case, WB is deciding for the developers, for everybody who bought those games. They're deciding for us that, like, yeah, we're just, it's gone. We're just going to erase it from existence, and you can't do anything about it. Sorry. And that sucks, because think about why they're doing it. They're doing it because they're, as it says here, is like they're just getting out of the small games business. Why are they doing that? Well, dude, WB, I don't know what the fuck is going on with WB anymore, but they don't seemingly know what they're doing, which is insane, because they're doing that thing that companies do where they're like, mobile, live service mobile, this is what we got to do. And it's like, this is, I guess, the reason why they're like, hey, we're going to... Do they not make money doing nothing, though? I don't understand, man. At the very least, just transfer the ownership or whatever. I hate the idea of a digital-only future. It's not even like, look, I don't hate the idea of digital. Digital's fine. Digital's convenient. I consume a lot of different media digitally. I just hate the idea of the corporations having complete and total control and basically deciding that, okay, well, we're done with this now. Sorry. But maybe I'm just old at this point. Saying it's happening whether we like it or not. Suicide Squad flops hard. Hogwarts Legacy thrives. WB, let's quadruple down on live service. I know, dude, I know, right? Like, who comes to that conclusion? Something is really wrong with this industry, dude, and the people running it. L move. Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. Dude, Suicide Squad flopped so hard. Their $100 like premium ultra mega whatever edition, they slashed it. It's like $100. They slashed it by $40. It's like 60 now. And they're like desperately trying to get people like, hey guys, the Joker's coming. They're like really desperate to get people to buy this game. And I'm like, how the fuck did we get here, man? Like, see, this right here is what I'm just so tired of in this fucking industry, dude. I'm so tired of these video game companies being like, what's that? A single player narrative cinematic game that only sold 8 million copies, 10 million copies? That's not good enough. Imagine the recurrent revenue stream. The recurrent revenue. It's all about the fucking recurrent revenue. It's so annoying, dude. Now I'm just becoming upset. I'm just getting upset over this shit. A2, you're saying I probably was the only one being optimistic because it was Rocksteady. I mean, dude, that's what I'm saying. We are just... Listen, the more I think about it, the more I start to think maybe Sony really was smart. Maybe they got smart at the last minute. Maybe they got real fucking smart, where maybe they realized that, you know, how many prestigious single player video game studios have been completely trashed and are now just husks because they're like, they were basically tasked with making live service games. We can now add Rocksteady to that pile, by the way, of fucking corpses. And when I think about how much I wanted The Last of Us multiplayer, but then I think they did cancel it, you know? And now Naughty Dog's just sticking to single player. The Spider-Man live service game was canceled, right? trying to think if there was any other. Well, we know that the Guerrilla Games project wasn't canceled, so we'll see how that turns out. But maybe this is the smarter way to do it, where it's like, there's nothing wrong with live service and wanting to have some recurrent revenue. I don't know, man. I just think that these corporos, they get too greedy. I do. I think that they see it's all about like what another brand or what another company or what another developer has. That's what it's about, man. They see like, holy shit, how much money is Fortnite making a month? How much money is Fortnite making quarterly? What about Call of Duty? What about, I don't know, Roblox? I don't know. Throw in, insert any. There's like probably like 5, 6, 7 really truly successful live services, and they're just like, we want to get that. And it's like, I get it from like a business standpoint. You're like, man, that's the dream. There's no volatility. That's one of the things that Shawn Layden said, and that's what's interesting. When I was listening to Shawn Layden, he's like, what scares video game publishers and the executives, the people who are managing the money, what scares them is there's this long buildup to these games that are being made. Talking about like single player games, right? There's this long buildup where you're just spending money the whole time and you're not making any, and you just you don't make money for however many amount of years it is that they're making that game, and then you gotta hope that you make all of it back. But it's like, if you're making high quality single player games and you have a talented team, like, why would you think that you can't, why would you think that you can't make your money back and make a profit? It just feels like there's no faith anymore. Not enough faith in these. Like, I just don't understand. I don't understand how a company like WB sells 23 million units of a single player game, a purely single player game, a AAA one at that. And they decide, you know what? Nah, I don't think this is it. Like, I just don't. How? Like, how is that even real? Saying Hogwarts sold over 22 million, that's 1.5 billion on one game. That's not enough. Fortnite is the exception to the rule. It takes $1 billion to maintain the content. Yeah, like I think this whole, I think it's becoming, it's not becoming, it is clear that chasing the pipe dream of we can make the next Fortnite is just stupid, man. I think it seems like everybody's becoming overly ambitious in the name of greed. And that's what sucks, because the ambition should come from a more artistic standpoint, not a greedy one. I think the art should come first. The product itself should come first. And, it's funny because think about Fortnite, right? I think people sometimes forget. I'll tell you what, these executives certainly forget or just don't give a shit, where it's like, Fortnite wasn't the first. It was PUBG. And do you know why PUBG succeeded? I've put over 1,200 hours into PUBG. It's a great game. And I remember the creator of PUBG, what was his name? Like Brendan Green or something? I think he didn't retire, but he left the company a while ago to go make something else because he got tired of it. He's like, yeah, this is just commoditized now. Like, I want to go make something interesting again. Player Unknown, I think is what his name was. But I remember, like, if you go back to the early days of PUBG, and I wasn't even there during the earliest days, but if you go back to the earliest days, the reason why that game caught fire wasn't because, oh, this shit's gonna fucking take over and make money and become the next big thing. Not even close. It was literally just, Player Unknown and his small development team being like, we want to make a really different type of game that doesn't really exist right now because we think it would be fun. We want to make a game that we would enjoy playing that requires a high amount of skill. And we're going to make it like a battle royale. And when it came out, like, dude, people were like, holy shit, this is incredible. Yeah, exactly. It just happened by chance. Like they did. The point is, like, they had no idea what they were making in terms of, like, it's the ambition behind PUBG was just simply, this seems like it would be a really fun game, and it's something we would enjoy playing. And it was like a mod too. It wasn't like an Arma mod or something like that originally, or something like the same engine. We got Jake Skew 27 coming in, keeping the membership train rolling today. He drops another gift for us. Jake, thank you so much, man.
I appreciate it.
You just brought us up to 22 members on the day, so we are now just 3 away from hitting our goal, people. Thank you, Jake. His name is literally player unknown. But that's my whole thing here, man, is like, that is what started it. And obviously PUBG blew up and was I think people forget just how successful that game was. And Fortnite was not supposed to be Battle Royale. Fortnite was a what do you call that genre of game? It was like a game where you're building stuff to survive. I know there's a specific name for it. Maybe somebody can help me out here. But definitely it was not a Battle Royale. Battle Royale wasn't even supposed to be part of the game. Yeah, it was like Fortnite Save the World Tower Defense. Yeah, there you go. Thank you. It was a tower defense game, basically. Yeah. And when they saw, oh, look at this PUBG game, it's taking over, I will say it was a smart move on Epic's part. Like, I'm not saying anybody could have enough foresight to, they kind of knew, like, well, PUBG is a skilled game. Like, it's a game that requires skill. It's not just a pick up and play. Like, you got to learn the rules and the mechanics, and especially if you want to be good at the game, like, you really have to learn it. What if we just took the Battle Royale concept and just basically made it pick up and play? Anybody can do it. Give it the same art style. And that's the thing, is it's like, it wasn't even an original idea from Epic. It was just right time, right place. Nobody else is, has thought of doing this game in this way. And I'll tell you what, like, they definitely didn't think, like, when they made that Fortnite Battle Royale mode, they didn't think that it was going to become the literal biggest thing in gaming history. Right? Like, they didn't think that. And ever, when shit like that happens, you just see the entire, you see all the executives, dude. They just stare at it and they just have dollar signs in their eyes. But they just have no idea, where it's like, it just doesn't fucking work like that. Like, this is what I don't understand about business executives that are in charge of these, super rich companies, where every decision is critical, where it's like, it's always the same thing, where it's like dollar signs in their eyes, make it happen. And they just don't seem to have any inclination whatsoever about, like, but you do understand, like, it just doesn't work like that, right? And they're, it's just like, too bad. No, it will work like that. That is how it works. Make the thing, and it'll be the next big thing. It's like, that's not how it works. Sorry. And yeah, Helldivers 2 is further proof. Not a single soul expected Helldivers 2 to be the next big thing. Even the developers didn't expect it, because that's not the intention behind it. The intention behind Helldivers 2 was, let's just make something pretty fun that isn't really out there right now, or it's very sparse, games like this. And let's, you can just tell that there was a unique flair, a unique touch to the game that this development team, that being Arrowhead, specifically brought, that people picked up on it when they played it. They're like, yo, there's something about this game, man. Something about it. And it caught fire. And look, I'm not saying Helldivers 2, is it the next Fortnite? No, I don't think so. But it's huge. It's absolutely colossal, at least for now. And it made its mark, for sure. Helldivers 2 made its mark. And And it's just, these things, what I think is becoming pretty clear is there's like a name for this in philosophy. I think it's like Chinese philosophy, if I'm not mistaken. I forget the name of it. I'd have to look it up, but it's basically like the more you try, like the further away you're gonna get from it. Like if you want something to happen, you have to stop trying. Like you just have to let it go and stop trying and stop caring, and that's when it will happen. I forget the name of it. I'll have to look it up. I was like, Wu Wei. Is it Wu Wei? I don't know. But yeah, Chinese philosophy needs to be applied to that approach needs to be applied to these games, man, where it's kind of like it was talking a little bit about what Neil Druckmann had to say, right? Where Neil Druckmann's like, dude, there's so much pressure on us now. We have to make the next game even better. We have to trying to not try. We have to make the next game even better and even bigger, and there's so much pressure and so much expectation, and that will be their downfall. Just like I hope people know that, right? Like we all understand this, right? If we don't understand this, you're gonna be caught off guard in the future. But this is how the universe works. Where like Naughty Dog's downfall is not The Last of Us Part 2. I mean, to some people they think it is but no, like the game was a huge success. Naughty Dog's downfall is going to be that they get so worried that their next thing isn't going to be good enough that they basically, I don't want to say they ruin it, but in being so focused on matching their previous work, they're going to make decisions they otherwise would have never made. And those specific decisions are going to be the things that undo them eventually. And that's just how it goes, because nobody can stay on top forever. And everything peaks. Everything peaks. Nothing lasts forever. And what I've learned is that the best thing to do is to just be okay with that. It's like people who try to compare Death Stranding to Metal Gear Solid. Like, in my opinion, Kojima peaked with Metal Gear Solid 2, 3, and maybe 4. You could say 5. I guess maybe some people would say 5. But for me personally, it's like Kojima's peak was like MGS 2 and 3 and 4. 2 through 4 for me. I want to say 1. Maybe you could just say MGS 1 through 4. The MGS saga, we'll say. Let's just say that. Kojima peaked with the MGS saga. And I am convinced that he'll never match that. I mean, if he does, that would be unexpected. Like with Fizzant, right? Like Fizzant's supposed to be Kojima's next huge thing, his return to basically not Metal Gear, but the same type of game. And maybe he will. Like, it's not impossible, but I assure you this, Kojima will not be able to find a new level of success with a game like Fizzant if he's thinking about how do I do better than MGS. The moment that is what becomes his driving force, like I need to top MGS 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, the moment that becomes his driving factor, then you failed. Like, it's not going to happen. You're going to now make decisions that are not going to come naturally and organically because you are thinking about something that is not new and original. You are thinking about something that you did previously, and you're hoping that you can achieve that again. I'm not saying, and to be fair, I don't think Kojima's going to do that. Kojima seems like the total opposite. Like, if there's one thing that seemed pretty clear about Death Stranding is I don't think he gave a fuck if he made a game as good that would be considered as good as Metal Gear. Like, I don't get that feeling at all with Death Stranding. I get the feeling with Death Stranding that Kojima was like, yo, this shit is what's in my head and it sounds awesome to me and I want to make it, and you guys are going to make it, and don't question it, just please make it. And I think that's exactly what that game was. And it's like, you know what? It turns out that what's going on in Kojima's head in like in like 2016, 17, 18, and 19, this game that he's had in his mind, it's not going to be for everybody. And he didn't give a shit. You know, I think that's kind of what makes a game like Death Stranding so awesome in a sense, where it wasn't chasing anything. It wasn't. It was just, here's the new Kojima game. And because it wasn't chasing anything, it was so fucking different and weird in so many ways that it's like, this is kind of awesome. You know? Was it the next big thing? No. But it's okay, because that's not, you know, it didn't need to be. If it turned out, like, look, if Death Stranding 2 turns out to be the next big thing, who would have thought, right? But that's not what went into it. So, Jake's here, you're saying 10 months. Wow, you're the only YouTuber I have a membership on. Keep up the good work. I'm going to change 27 to 28 on my name later. Okay, yeah, true, because you just celebrated your birthday, Jake. Well, thank you, man. I appreciate you being a member for 10 months, and I'm very humbled by that. You're saying that I'm the only YouTuber that you have a membership to. That's very kind of you, man. Thank you. Appreciate all the support, guys. But yeah, I don't know. This wasn't necessarily on my list of topics, but it's just something that I guess I feel, I don't know, I have a bit of ranting to do here, because I think that the downfall, like, there's been so much negativity, and I get it. Like, I'm a pretty negative person at times, maybe too often. But all I see coming across my feed, whether it's on YouTube or Twitter, anywhere I'm looking, it's always, you know, oh, AAA gaming is dying, and the video game industry is collapsing, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, you know, it's fucking greed, people. Like, that's what it is. It's never enough. There always has to be more. And the greed infects the creation process. And when the greed infects the creation process, you get shit results. Because any product that's made out of greed is not a product that's going to resonate with any market. It's just not. It's it's the creative minds and the creative people that are really trying to, like, speak directly to an audience, you know, which could be their fan base. It could be wider than that, but it's like, you know, this is why like I fucking hate mobile gaming, dude. Like, I'm not saying there's like, there aren't good mobile games, but it just seems to me like if you go look at the mobile games market, it's just the philosophy, you know, behind it is just, like, squeeze as much money out of people as you possibly can. Everything else is just whatever, you know? And I get that, like, sense very, very much so. If I go check the mobile games market and I'm like, this fucking sucks. And I get that it's like skins and stuff, you know, $20 skins. And I don't know that that's like a problem, but maybe it is becoming a problem. The art of console war. Yeah. Maybe this like chase for, man, we need like $20 skins and shit, you know? Because the margins on it are so high. It's like, I don't know, man. But maybe that's just the way things have always been and how they'll always go. There's always going to be people that don't follow that way of doing things. And I think eventually people get tired of shit. And if they don't get tired of it, maybe they just weren't involved with it to begin with. And again, that's where you see like a game like Helldivers 2. That's what it's born from. A game like Helldivers 2 is born from a development team that obviously wants to succeed. They want to put out a good product, but there's something there that nobody else thought of for some reason. And it's probably because, you know, while everybody's fucking busy staring at Fortnite and staring at GTA Online and staring at Call of Duty and being like, how do we make that? These guys over here being like, we're not looking at any of that shit. We're just making our own thing that to us just, you know, we had an original concept 8 years ago and we have a vision of like where it could go. And yeah, dude, it's awesome to see stuff like that because it really serves as a very important reminder to not just the creatives in the gaming space, but to the actual market and hopefully to the fucking executives, right, that are running this shit. It serves as a very important reminder that like you don't have to chase shit to be successful. You just have to make good shit that resonates with a lot of people. And I'm not saying that isn't difficult to do, but it's just that can only happen naturally, man. I'm telling you, that can only happen naturally. It can't happen in some forced, weird way where it's like, you know. Anyway, I see there's like an argument going on here of like Tekken 8 being greedy or not greedy. Didn't they add a microtransaction shop? You're saying they are chasing what most of you are playing. Yeah, and you're not wrong about that. But you see, maybe that is also a flaw, right? Where it's like, well, the reason why we want to make a game that's kind of similar to Fortnite or Call of Duty is because that's what everybody's playing. It's like, yeah, but if everybody's already playing that, like, how are you going to succeed by saying, here's our version that's better? Is it though? Like, is it going to be better? Again, the only reason Fortnite succeeded, this is the only reason, is because they saw, like, they were like, you know what? There is no child-friendly battle royale right now. There's no kid-friendly battle royale. And they were like, they saw that. They were like, holy shit, if we don't get on that, somebody else will, and we will miss the opportunity. I mean, it makes you wonder, like, well, maybe it doesn't, because it's like, I was going to say, like, oh, is there a child-friendly version of Call of Duty? But, like, no, Call of Duty, it's both at once. And some people kind of hate it for that. You know, like Call of Duty is still, like, it still tries to be like, we're a military shooter. Yeah, rated M for mature. And then there's like fucking, you know, some of the goofiest skins and shit in there. And so it's like, all right, well, Call of Duty kind of runs the gamut here. And you could argue that maybe PUBG's biggest mistake, not to keep going, but it's just fascinating kind of like looking back on the shit. You could argue PUBG's biggest mistake, and what is it, like, I forget the name of the company that's behind it, Crafton or something. Their biggest mistake was maybe not realizing, like, we should probably make a really dumbed down, like, kiddie version of this game with cartoon graphics. Like, we should probably do that right now, because this game is not for kids. It's like, it's not. I mean, maybe I guess kids could play PUBG, but it's really not on, you know. You guys get what I'm saying? They could have had that thought and maybe got to work on that, but, you know, Epic Games beat them to it. Oh yeah, Roblox. Jerry Gamer, remember for 3 months saying, unfortunately, I never got into Metal Gear Solid, but I love Death Stranding. I did play MGS5 before. I find it too hard. Interesting. Yet MGS5, it's actually crazy how different MGS5 is from the first 4 games. Like, MGS5 is by far and away the biggest shift in terms of gameplay, but a natural evolution. But if you were to go play, like, if you end up playing like Metal Gear Solid 3 Remake or something, you'll realize like it's nothing like MGS5. It's just very different. MGS5, I will say, in the pursuit of Kojima wanting to focus on an open world and focus on the gameplay, which is not a bad thing, because the gameplay of MGS5 is incredible. I think that the story kind of suffered a bit, in my opinion. It was missing something critical that was there for MGS 1 through 4 story-wise. But yeah, the Phantom Pain still, dude, the first hour of the Phantom Pain, like the first hour and a half is mind-blowing. Like fucking mind-blowing, dude. But I guess the reason why I was having this whole conversation, like how does this feed back into, I guess, getting back to talking about PlayStation? Well, it's that, man, I think Sony needs to stay smart. They do. I think Sony needs to stop. I don't know if they, again, we don't really know how they are viewing things internally right now, but now that Jim Ryan's going to be leaving, I think that they need to just refocus on what will be, I think, most important to the PlayStation brand for many years to come, for decades to come, for possibly the entire existence of the PlayStation brand. And that is like, just let your studios create what they want and obviously manage them accordingly, manage the money accordingly. Don't let things get too out of hand, but let them make what they want. And hopefully these studios don't undo themselves. Like I hope that when Cory Barlog's team that's working on a new IP, we're going from God of War 2018 to God of War Ragnarok to a brand new IP that could be way fucking different than anybody expects. I know that there's a high level of pressure where it's like, fuck, man, how are we going to one-up ourselves? Don't worry about one-up. Like, I know it's easier said than done, but I don't want to see Santa Monica worry about one-upping God of War and God of War Ragnarok. It doesn't have to be better. It just has to be good. It's new. You like that to me is already like such a huge win where it's like it's something new and different. And maybe it won't be for me, but it's new and different. And you know what? Like it doesn't have to make me feel the exact same way that God of War 2018 did, that God of War Ragnarok did. It just needs to make me feel something good. That's all it has to do. And I don't mean to make it sound like that's all it has to do. But this is where I think, like, dude, people can be fucking rabid and totally unfair with this shit. Where, I don't know, I think, like, Sucker Punch, they probably at some point felt like, man, we're probably just going to be the Infamous studio now, right? Like, that's probably all we are going to be able to make. How do we break out of this? And it's like, there is a world, dude. There is a world where like Infamous was doing good for Sony, man. Like Infamous Second Son did really well. It sold well. And there's a world where, they maybe decided we're not going to deviate, or Sony told them not to deviate because it's like, look, Infamous is the brand, man. And like, we don't want to get away from that. And Ghost of Tsushima maybe would have not existed or something, that there's a world where something like that exists. And that's the kind of stuff that I want to continue to see from Sony, where I know it's risky and I know it's difficult, but like it is necessary. It is, I think. Oh yeah. They were just the Sly Cooper. Yeah, that's true too. Yeah. You know what? Yeah. They probably, it seemed like going into the PS4 generation, that's really when they started to lean into like, okay, we're the Infamous studio now. But yeah, you could look at Guerrilla as well with like Killzone, where, see, that's the fear though, right? Is like, did Guerrilla Games just go from being like, they're just the Killzone studio to they traded Killzone in for Horizon? Like now they're just the Horizon studio. I think there is some concern there where I don't think there's anything wrong if these studios decide that like, that's just what we want to be. Like if that's really just what they want to be, like we're cool just being the Horizon studio. Like that's what we want to do as a studio. Okay. Like it's not my place to say like that's wrong or you shouldn't do that. Just like if Santa Monica said, we just want to be the God of War studio. But I have to imagine that like at some point they probably, being creatives are like, maybe we do have different ideas. Something we would want to try that's different. And I I think it's just important for Sony to recognize that, going forward, that if you have these studios that want to try different stuff, like, give them a shot. Let's see what happens. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. All right. Kind of, I don't know. That was just kind of a all over the place rant or tangent that I went on. You're saying 3 games in a franchise and they should move on. I mean, that's not a bad way of looking at it, because you have to, like, 3 AAA games, dude. That's like a decade and a half, So it's like by that time you have to imagine that they're probably dying to move on at that point, Seems like a natural progression, I guess. Capono 5150 saying, I promise to support every quality game Nixus ports. That money then funnels back into the studios you guys love. Looking good as always, MBG. Well, thank you for that, Capono. And yeah, that's why I can't be mad at any of these PlayStation Studios games going to PC, especially after dude, Ghost of Tsushima, like I said, it feels like it's overdue. I guess Sony kind of saved it. I'm convinced that they saved the Ghost of Tsushima PC announcement close to when they are ready to reveal the sequel. To me, that makes the most sense. But it's like almost 4 years later at this point, and it's like, I mean, I hope it sells well. Like, I am rooting for Ghost of Tsushima on PC because it's just like, yes, dude, that's more money going into Sucker Punch's pockets as well as Sony's for one of the best games I ever played. Like, I'm not going to root against that. It's just, again, Sony, I think they did it the right way. While it may have taken a little bit longer for a game like Ghost of Tsushima, it's smart that they had Nixus do it. Really makes me wonder. Really, you know what I'm curious about? How come Nixus wasn't involved with Naughty Dog and The Last of Us? Do you think that has something to do with the Last of Us multiplayer? Do you think because maybe The Last of Us multiplayer was going to launch day one on PC and it was going to be, using that technology? Naughty Dog was like, we gotta learn PC ourselves, or maybe they're too busy. Yeah, it could be that too. Yeah, maybe that would make more sense. Yeah, Nixus has been busy, bro. They are. So I appreciate that super chat, Capono. Yeah, I heard about that Shogun show being like really, really good, and I was like, I saw like a trailer for him, like that just looks like Ghost of Tsushima, man. Like, shit, looks good. Maybe I'll have to check it out. I don't know if I actually will or not, but I have seen it kind of like floating around. So I wanted to go over this news with you guys. It's not good news, but also maybe not surprising. Being reported by WCCF Tech, game development studio Deviation Games is officially shutting down. The news comes from HR Chief and Operations Officer Christy Stull, who shared the following post on LinkedIn. It is with a heavy heart that we announce the closure of Deviation Games. I want to express my deepest gratitude to our entire team. Thank you for all your hard work, dedication, and contribution to Deviation. I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunity to have worked with each and every one of you. The entire video games industry will be hosting a network event, and we would love for any/all companies, studios hiring to participate. Please reach out to me directly if you are interested in attending. To all the Deviators out there, we will always cherish the memories we made together. Thank you for being part of our journey. Go get them. Deviation Games was unveiled less than 3 years ago in June 2021 and was founded by former Call of Duty Treyarch developers Jason Blundell and Dave Anthony. At the time, the studio received funding from Sony to make a new live service PlayStation IP. In January 2022, the studio even announced a new Canadian branch, hiring at an expansion of its workforce. However, things quickly spiraled down from there. In September of 2022, co-founder and game director Jason Blundell left the company, seemingly to land at PlayStation Studios, according to a tweet. Around 10 months ago, Deviation Games was hit with significant layoffs, and their live service PlayStation IP, which reportedly cost at least $50 million, was canceled. It was originally supposed to be among the wave of 10 live service games Sony wanted to launch before March 2026. However, PlayStation recently said only 6 of those titles will be available by that time, likely due to cancellations and delays. We know The Last of Us Online has been canceled too, and the same fate befell London Studios' fantasy co-op game when the studio was shut down recently. So, yeah, holy shit, man. What happened? Something went critically fucking wrong with Deviation, bro. Like, I don't know if they just made a completely ass game, or maybe there was no game. Maybe they blew all their money. Something went so wrong that this studio literally formed, had over like 100 employees for like 2 years, and then is now shutting down. I mean, god damn, dude, that's about as bad as it gets. So something, I imagine, you know what I wonder? So like, you do have to question like what goes on with these finances a little bit, right? Like, how could this studio afford to open a second studio and hire even more people? You know, like, it almost makes me wonder, like, was there even a game? You know what I mean? Like, did they just take the funding from Sony and think like, we're just going to keep growing and we're going to make the biggest and best game? And then it's just like, you know, 2 years later, Sony's like, so what do you got for us? And they're like, well, we're still in a prototyping phase. And it's like, excuse me? You know what I mean? Like, this is where it's just, I think Sony gave out a lot of money. And I don't know, because you know, it was pretty bad. Like, Jason Blundell, who founded the studio, just straight up like left. And I think for a lot of people, like, that was the death rattle. And for those who thought that, like, they were correct. That was in fact the death rattle, because that studio literally collapsed to the point where they're now shutting down. So I don't know, man. I would be very interested to. I'm sure at some point we'll get more info on this situation, because there's going to be a lot of developers that are, that are probably going to reach out and just reveal certain shit. But yeah, Jason Blundell is now part of PlayStation Studios, and we still don't know like which studio he's working at or what he's doing. Yeah, I would love to know what he's doing at PlayStation Studios now. I mean, you know what's weird to me, dude? I gotta be honest. I was following Deviation Games on Twitter, and I just remember, and I see this with some of these studios sometimes. It's like, I don't know, man. I'm on the outside looking in, so I'm just describing what I'm seeing, where it just seemed like they were always like doing shit. Like it almost came off to me like, what are you guys doing over there? Like, they were always having these like celebrations, and it like, it looks like they were having a lot of fun, and that's fine. Like, I get it. Like, that's part of a company's culture and whatnot. But I'm just like, when I look back at seeing those posts all the time and shit, it's like, again, you got to ask, like, what were you guys doing exactly? Like, were you making a game or not? What was going on there? Shit's weird, bro. Like, you know what I think happens? I think maybe these certain developers who've worked on AAA games for a long time, and they manage teams under like Activision in this case. I think they just get it in their head that like, we can do that. And then like, they go out there, they sell the vision, they get the money, and then they find out really quick, like, you can't, like this, like, dude, I'm telling you, man, it seems like managing large studios is way fucking harder than like 99.9% of people realize. Like, I'm beginning to think that like you have to have a certain level of expertise and knowledge and understanding that it's just, if you don't have that, you're just not, it's not even good luck. You're just not making it, you know? I start to get that feeling where it just seems like or maybe there's a large amount of luck involved. I mean, you hear how sometimes with these big studios making these big games, I think it was Corey Barlog who kind of made it sound like you just kind of got to hope that it all comes together at the end, you know? Like, you just don't know. And maybe they get just really lucky. It's like, oh my God, okay, all the pieces fell into place. You think Sony got scammed? That's wild, man. That's wild to think. I was so interested in Deviation too. Yeah, I don't know. I've learned my lesson there, dude. I learned my lesson. Like, if it's a no-name studio, I've been scammed so many times with this shit. Blue box, Deviation. Shit ain't real. They're fucking preying on my dreams and shit. Bungie scammed Sony too. What the fuck? What happened, man? What the hell happened? Dude, did Jim Ryan, you know what? Does anybody start to get the feeling, did Jim Ryan not know what the fuck he was doing? Does anybody start to think that like Jim's like, oh yeah, Bungie, we love those guys, and oh, Deviation, you guys want some money? Yeah, here you go. Call of Duty devs, let's go, baby. Meanwhile, everybody's like, yo, there's like words starting to get around, like Sony's giving out money, man. Like, go make a game with Sony. It seems Deviation Games deviated from their goal. I think Jason Blundell is at a new studio. The rumor started one day that one dev X that he is part of PlayStation Studios and not working for Jason. He's now working for Jason. Yeah, it almost starts to seem that way. Maybe Jason Blundell got into a bad partnership with that other guy, Anthony Davis. Maybe Anthony Davis didn't know what the fuck he was doing at all. And like, he just left and he went to Sony. He's like, listen, these guys don't know what they're doing. Like, I know how to do this shit. They don't know what they're doing. And Sony's like, all right, let's try again. This time internally. We'll see. We'll see what happens, man. I feel like a lot of this is just wait and see. Jim Ryan's going to come out and announce that he was the CEO of Deviation all that time. MBG, but it's clear that Sony is backtracking from all these games as a service, just having 1 and 2. Yeah, dude, I'm telling you, that is obvious. Yeah. Sony really, I think, is in tears, like on the inside. I think they are in tears about how, like, it's not that the worst has happened. Like, it could have been way worse, dude. I think like the worst situation would have been Sony still going through with this shit. You know what I mean? Like, not being able to like clearly see like, oh my God, what did we do? Like, these games are horrible. Like, this shit's bad, like real bad, you know? Like, and then still saying, do it anyway. You know, that would have been the worst case scenario. But I think they got a lot closer to that scenario than they would have liked. And I think internally they are crying on the inside a bit because of just like all the money they lost, bro. We're like, their shareholders, I'm telling you, like, people think Spider-Man 2 is the problem. I'm telling you, I don't think Spider-Man 2's, like, it's not perfect, Like, yeah, like 300 mil is like, okay, hold on now. Yeah, it's like, it is an issue. But I'm telling you, that's not why their profit margins are fucked. I'm telling you. Spider-Man 2, people are wondering, like, how is Spider-Man 2, why isn't Spider-Man 2 enough to carry PlayStation? Because, dude, Spider-Man 2 is not just carrying PlayStation. It's carrying PlayStation and all its live service failures now. It's carrying Bungie. It's carrying Deviation. It's carrying PlayStation London. It's carrying the canceled Last of Us game. You know, like, all of that shit is now placed on the backs of these upcoming single-player games. Well, I mean, you know, whenever Wolverine and you know, Death Stranding 2, like, these games now have to carry that burden that they otherwise wouldn't have had to. So this is why, like, I think it's the timing of it all, dude. I think it's the timing of we learned the financials we weren't supposed to. Like, we illegally learned, not that we committed the illegal act, but, you know, hackers and shit. We learned through that hack, holy shit, okay, so this is how much these games cost, and this is how much Spider-Man 2 costs. And, you know, you can see that the deal between Disney and Sony has basically made it so that, okay, Insomniac's kind of an exception here where we need these games to land. Like, we need all of our games to land, but that game in particular, because we have a licensing deal, needs to land. And I think that's one of the reasons why it costs $300 million. I think it's because it's just like, Sony's like, we got to give this game whatever it needs. We can't fucking risk it. But at the same time that they were doing this, they're investing all this money and dumping all this money in the shit that's failing even. Like, I think Sony learned the hard way, bro. Straight up. I think Sony had this idea where they're like, this is the answer. This is the way forward. If they can do it, why can't we do it? And they learned, I think, in real time over the last 3 fucking years that, oh my God, like, nobody knows what they're fucking doing out here. And meanwhile, the real heroes, Arrowhead, come out and they're like, well, I mean, you guys are still supporting our game, right? And so he's like, yeah, go ahead. Helldivers 2 is great. Yeah, sure. Yeah, go ahead. And then Helldivers 2 is like fucking blowing shit up. And they're like, hold on now. You know, like, because keep in mind, Sony didn't buy Arrowhead. Sony bought Firewalk. Sony bought Haven. Sony invested in Deviation, right? Sony bought Bungie. Meanwhile, Arrowhead's just out here on the side, like basically on the sidelines, just like Sony's like, okay, yeah, here's your funding and Helldivers 2, that's great. You keep doing you guys. And like the thing that Sony wasn't paying attention to seemingly is the thing that is out here paving the way for them. And I think that should be such a wake-up call for Sony where it's like, again, the harder you try, you know, to force this, it's just going to, the harder it's going to fail. So you're saying Wolverine is heavily supported by Sweet Baby Inc. Is that true? Has that been confirmed? I won't lie, that's gonna put a huge damper on Wolverine for me, bro. After learning the shit I've learned about Sweet Baby Inc. Is that fucking true? Mr. B says no. Nick says yeah, it's true. Jay Shako says yeah. Come on, man. Yeah, they're probably fucking scamming Sony too. Well, you know what? Here's something I heard people say. They were like, listen, they're like, no one is being, like, these studios are not being forced to work with Sweet Baby Inc. It's a choice. Like, they're choosing to work with them as a consultancy. You know? It's a choice. So it's like, can we really be mad at Sony? Like, how mad can we be if they're choosing to do this? And it's like, well, yeah, you could still be mad. But just don't be fucking shocked if people start to be like, no, we're not buying your fucking game if we find out you were working with these guys. Because, you know, like, dude, listen, I'm being like, you're talking about people who are just like legitimately being straight up fucking racist towards white people that were associated with this company. And it's like, hey, I'm white, man. And it's like, I'm not, you know, that's pretty fucked up. Like, that does make me think, like, I really don't want my money going into their fucking pockets. Like, fuck them, you know? So it really does, it does make me seriously contemplate and hesitate and maybe really consider, like, I don't want it to come to that. Like, I just don't understand. Like, Insomniac, just leave the shit alone, dude. I don't fucking care how progressive you are. I don't give a shit how fucking liberal you are. Like, leave the shit alone. Just sever the ties with them and write your own fucking game. You know, you want to have your own political stances, whatever. But fuck that company, dude. And fuck the people who founded it, because it's clear who they are. It's clear the types of people they are. And, you know, I don't want to see Insomniac basically ruin themselves. Although I was listening to Sacred Symbols recently, and according to Colin Moriarty, and it actually makes a lot of sense. Colin was saying, like, dude, Insomniac is like probably the most liberal studio, like the most left-leaning studio that Sony owns. And it's like, holy shit, dude. Like, that's one thing. But then you partner with Sweet Baby Inc. It's like, okay, this shit's just getting annoying at this point. You know, it's just fucking irritating. Nobody wants this shit. Nobody wants it. Like, why is it so fucking hard for these companies to understand nobody wants your fucking bullshit preaching? Nobody wants it. Nobody. Literally nobody. Except the 0.001% that scream all day, every day on the internet about everything. And even then, they're probably not even the fucking ones buying your games. No one wants them. Not even them. They don't even want it. So annoying, man. Like, why does it have to be this way? BlackRock does. Y'all are getting MBG worked up. Yeah. Well, it's hard not to, because it's like, you know, people were making the fucking joke, Wokerine, and it's like, listen, if Sweet Baby Inc. is involved, yes, it's going to be Wokerine, bro. I don't want to pay for Wokerine. Look, I'll give Insomniac the chance to show me the game. I'm not going to, it's too early for me. It's too early for me. I want to see Insomniac show me the game. You know, I don't want to ruin it for myself too early, but like, and I didn't look too deeply into the leaks, honestly. I was trying to avoid as much of the story shit that I can. But, you know, it's like, it should be pretty easy to tell, is all I'll say. Fucking God, man. Will I buy the game if Sweet Baby Inc. is involved? I mean, I'm leaning towards no. I'm gonna have to do further research. I will say, when I was listening to Sacred Symbols and I was listening to what Colin was saying that he thinks this is just the beginning. That, like, this is another full-blown Gamergate moment, but like even bigger. And this is just the very beginning of it. And I am beginning to get the feeling that, like, yeah, he's probably right. This shit feels like something's bubbling underneath and it's about to fucking explode, and it's not going to be pretty. And yeah, dude, it's like, I will probably, you know, as I do more research and I learn more about this company, it won't surprise me if I get to a point where I'm going to have to just start making hard fucking stands of, like, you know what, this shit's got to stop. And the only way it's going to stop is I'm not going to fucking give companies, I'm not going to tell again, it's the only language these companies speak is, are you giving me your money or not? And I don't want it to have to come down to, I can't give you my money because of you're just involved with a shitty ass agenda fueled company that's ruining your fucking products. Sorry. You know, I would love to give you my money, but you keep fucking doing this shit. And it's like, I'll just save my money, you know, but that's going to be tough for me because it's like, I run this channel here and it's like, that's going to be a, man, that would be a wild scenario, dude. That would be a wild scenario where I look back at the Wolverine launch, or not launch, the announcement, and I was hitting the fucking roof with excitement. If like 5 years later, the game's finally ready to come out, it's like, yeah, I'm not buying it. Like, that would be the craziest shit ever. Reset Error is doing its best to try and harm Stellar Blade. Dude, these people need to fucking... You guys are really about to get me go. These people need to fucking go outside and just shut the fuck up. Like, they really do. I don't know who these people are, but like, they just need to collectively shut the fuck up. Okay? Like, it's okay for a game developer to say, we're going to make our protagonist fucking hot and sexy. Nothing wrong with that. And you know what? It's totally okay if a developer says, we want to make our protagonist hideous as fuck. That's great. More power to you, friend. Don't be surprised when that's a lot less appealing to people. I swear, people are getting dumber by the fucking day. They're getting dumber by the day. What happens if we make our protagonist look like a fucking hideous human being? I mean, you might get some fucking, what, they say the ESG score or whatever, but people aren't going to be attracted. Like, you're probably going to see less interest. You know, that's just how shit goes, man. Like, it's almost like saying, I want to sell this car, this used car or whatever. It's pretty fucking beat up. You know, it could probably use some work. And if I actually tried to make it look nice and presentable, I'd probably have a much easier time selling it. It's a lot easier on the eyes. But nah, you know, all that rust and shit, we'll just leave it on there. And you guys should like it because it's the right thing to do. All right. It's fucking dumb. It makes no sense. Yeah, I mean, dude, that's the whole thing, man. This is why people are so supportive of Stellar Blade and the jiggle physics and the whole fucking thing, because they know that there are people out there who have been trying to push an agenda in the video games industry that are raging. They are fucking raging. They're smashing their heads against the wall over this because they want to control, dude. That's the problem. That's the problem about Sweet Baby Inc. and why people are losing it. It's because it's about control. It's about a group of people saying, no, this is what you can do and how you can do it because we said so. And if you do anything outside of this, you're wrong and you're bad and you're just contributing to the problem. And people are over that shit. They're so far over it. It's like, no, you're actually the wrong one because you're out here trying to tell people that there's only one way and it's your fucking way. And what people are going to do is turn to you and say, fuck you. Hate to say it, like that's what people are going to do. I tried to say over and over again that if you want to enlighten people, right? You want people to see the way you view things because you believe the way you view things is right or better or ideal, whatever it might be, that's fine. We're all humans. We all have our own views. You're not going to do it by trying to force it on people and conditioning them. You're not. You can condition them over time, but you have to do it in a way that does not evoke a negative emotional reaction. You need to meet people in the middle, or at least be willing to do so. At least be willing to create a conversation. And if you're not willing to do that, you're not going to make any progress. Instead, you're getting shit like this, where people are like, you know what? Fuck you. Here's my sexy ass, busty character with the jiggle physics and a fucking see-through skin tight suit. So you could shove it, you know? That's what you get. Hope you're happy because you brought that on yourself. I mean, you know, I have no problem with it, but I'm just saying, it's like, this is what happens when people go to extreme ends, man. Stellar Blade Talk. This is Stellar Blade Talk. We are talking Stellar Blade. But whatever, man. I'm excited for Stellar Blade for multiple reasons. But I'll tell you what, I'm not upset with the way the character looks. To me, it's just, oh, that's cool, you know? That's what they went with. I have no problem with that. I also had no problem with Aloy and Horizon. You know, like I remember when people were trying to make something, oh, they fucking made Aloy ugly. It's like, I don't know. I think that's just how she's always looked. You know, like I don't have a problem with that. But what does become weird is when, again, like people were pissed off at MJ in Spider. It's like, yeah, they changed the way MJ looked. Like that shit is weird. They purposely changed how she looked and made her ugly. Like, for some reason, they're just like, let's just make her ugly. Because why not? It's like, well, I'll tell you why not, because that's not how you made her look in the first game. Meanwhile, they take Peter Parker's face from Spider-Man 2018, and he looked fine. Like, I actually thought, wow, he looks more relatable. You know, like that's a good look for Peter Parker there. And like, nah, we need to Tom Holland him up a little bit, you know, like we gotta get that going on. And it's like, what the fuck? You know, they're totally ass backwards, dude, with the approach they have. They're totally ass backwards. I'll put it to you this way. The way Peter Parker and MJ looked in Spider-Man 2018 looked perfect, fine, no problems. It was fine. Like, why touch it? Why mess with it? It's totally fine. You're saying Aloy never shuts the fuck up in Horizon Forbidden West. Yeah, I agree with that, dude. It's like, whoa. Like, she has to be a little insane, right? You know what? I'll tell you, I have a theory with Horizon Forbidden West, guys. I do. I have a theory. So actually, you're saying, no, they definitely made Aloy uglier. Check this out. Here's my theory with Horizon Forbidden West. If you go watch the first like gameplay trailer we saw of Horizon Forbidden West, specifically the gameplay trailer, that's when people lost their shit because they're like, why does she look like that? Why'd you guys make her uglier? Like, what'd you do to her face? You changed her face. And if you go back and you watch, I think it was a State of Play in 2021. If you look, her face did look like a lot different in certain areas. And a lot of the screenshots that people put out there to be like, look at how Aloy looks. Yeah, the memes that people made. And I was like, okay, yeah, she does definitely look a little bit different. But I noticed if you go play that section of the game, if you look at it now, like, dude, I think they saw the backlash and they're like, no, go back. Undo what you just did because people are noticing and they're getting pissed. I think that's exactly what happened, dude. And we got Hellbound 1981. Hellbound the Legend. I don't know if you just got here, Hellbound. I did give Boss his snacks earlier. Maybe I'll bring him in towards the end of the stream today. But Hellbound, thank you so much. He does it. He gets us over the 25 member goal. We're now sitting at 27.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, man. I'll give you another Mark Cerny there. Let me update this. I don't mean to get so ranty. I don't know. Maybe you guys like that, but like, I'm just so fed up with all of this shit, you know, because I don't know. I'm mostly indifferent to it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm mostly indifferent where I'm like, whatever. I think people are just overreacting, and I think people are throwing tantrums over shit that's not really, it's like really not that big of a deal. But then as time goes on and I start to see it's like, well, more of it's happening more frequently. And then I start to, see people trying to expose, or like, look at the people that are involved with this. Look at the shit they're posting on their social media. Look at what they stand for. Look at the type of character they have. These are the people that are getting involved with the games that you like and the things you like, and here's how they're trying to change it. And it's like, yeah, where my frustration stems from? It's like, you know what? That doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me that there are people out here that I am just totally, like, it's antithetical to me. It's like, I don't see your side at all. Like, you almost seem crazy to me. I don't get it. That doesn't surprise me. And I don't expect that to ever change. But my whole thing is, why don't you make your own shit? Make your own shit. Just go make your shit. And let it appeal to the people that agree with you. And you can all enjoy it together. I don't understand why there's all this. There's just such this need. Like, we need to change this. Like, why? It's not nearly as bad as you make it sound. Like, could some things be, tweaked here and there? Are there some actual real issues? Of course. But this intense, like, nuclear approach to it, it's like, no, we just gotta fucking come in and scrub this shit and mold it into something that it really shouldn't be. It's like, fuck, man, shit gets irritating as all hell. Why does everything need to be sanitized? All right, we got Phil takes Blue Chew. That's a name, bro. Let me tell you, that's a name right there. Wow. You're saying not every investment works out, so you move on. Yes, it's true. It is usually that simple, and I think that's exactly what's going on right now. I think Sony made quite a few different investments. It's not working out, and they're slowly starting to move on. They're taking the first steps. You're saying you can't make Wolverine woke. I agree with, like, that's my whole thing, dude, is like, I don't know how that's going to happen. Like, my guess is that, like, if Sweet Baby Inc. is involved with Wolverine, there's going to be shit in the story, like in the game itself, like surrounding Wolverine, that's going to be so obviously like, oh yeah, okay, here we go. I fully anticipate that if they're actually involved with it. But yeah, Wolverine, good. I don't think you make Wolverine woke because I don't know. I mean, he's a pretty aggressive character, he's gonna wear a pride shirt. Oh, I mean, yeah, that would be a little. I don't see how they could make something like that work. You're saying Jean's gonna save him or something, stuff like that. Like, look, I'm okay with shit like that. I think sometimes people do get a little too crazy with it, where it's like, I don't view any of the characters that I enjoy, that I consider like strong, relatable characters. I don't see any of them as perfect, or in fact, a lot of times I relate to certain weaknesses. That's or like when they are revealed to have certain weaknesses, that and kind of humanizes them more. That's what I tend to relate to, and that's why I think these people that are trying to force their agenda into this shit, I think this is why they just don't get it. Where it's like, you're not making relatable characters. You're making like a projected fucking perfect version of a character that represents a group that, it's like, I think like deep down at the heart of it, your intent is not necessarily that malicious, where it's like, well, I just, I want to represent and I want there to be like better representation and stuff. It's like, that's fine, but you're taking the worst possible approach where you're making that, some of these characters so unrelatable and so uninteresting that you're having almost the opposite effect. It's like you're almost doing more damage than you are good. So, yeah, I don't. I think these people just need to take a step back and reevaluate, like, what makes a good character a good character. It's the human experience, man. Like, this obsession with skin color and race and ethnicity, like, this is not. That's a good character is a good character. It doesn't matter if they're male or female. It doesn't matter what their skin color is. It doesn't matter what their heritage or their. It does. None of that shit matters because it shouldn't. Because the moment you shine a light on that and say, this is why this character's cool, like, no. Like, dude, when I was growing up, I thought, like, I remember the Blade movies with Wesley Snipes. I thought he was the most badass fucking character. Did I give a single fuck about his skin color? No, I didn't. It wasn't until I became an adult and I see that people are always having these conversations about skin color. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Who gives a fuck? Dude, like, seriously, who cares? But that's the whole thing, man, is it's just like, I don't know, too many people care. Too many people care, apparently. How did we go back 60 years? Yeah, I don't know, dude. I think it's, here's what I think. I think that there are still, like, there truly are racist people out there, like, genuinely racist, hateful people, like, evil people that do literally judge other human beings because of the color of their skin. I think that obviously does exist in the world still, which is crazy to think about, but it's there. And I think what happened is, in the day and age of the internet, it has allowed what is essentially a very, very, very small, tiny group of people to become just much more vocal. And the thing is, I think that these people are so, holy shit, it's really windy out there. These people are so vile and these people are so hateful that, you know, it's like this saying, like, it just takes one bad apple to ruin them all, right? So to speak, where when a single message can be seen by millions of people, it's like, what becomes, I think, more dominant in that moment is the reaction from the people, the reaction from the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions of people seeing it. And what starts to leave the conscious mind is that, holy shit, like, 99% of people don't think or feel that way. But it's like, it's almost like the hysterical reaction to it makes people think differently. Like, oh my God, so many people must feel that way. So many people must act that way. It's like, no, dude. Like, it's a very small group of people. And I think in some weird, again, it's in some weird ass backwards way, it's almost like you are amplifying the thing that you are trying to remove from the equation. You're like inadvertently shining a brighter light on it. And yeah, it just, I think it all just goes downhill from there. But at the same time, it's like, I understand, it's like, well, we can't be ignorant to it. It's like, well, of course not. But I don't know. I think it's just have some common sense, you know, just teach people about racism, explain to them why it's wrong. Again, 99% of people will understand why it's wrong because it's like, yeah, well, that doesn't make any sense. What the fuck is that? And there's always going to be that one person that's like, makes sense to me. And it's like, you just ignore that fucking person. You know, like, that person shouldn't even be part of the conversation because they're not going to contribute anything. They're the troll, if you will. Anyway, I don't know how we got onto this. I don't know how we got here, guys. We got, let's see. We got Silent Spartan with a $5 chat saying, I'm buying Stellar Blade simply because it tells the rest of the industry to fuck off with their nonsense. Well, there you go. Silent Spartan making it clear. I'm telling you, dude, Stellar Blade is going to do really well. And I think it is going to send a bit of a message. I'm buying it. I saw that it had way more pre-orders on Amazon than most other games. So we got Lucky Raygon, member for 8 months, saying, I hope companies take a look at this and stop getting involved with them. Like, I don't care about someone's views, but just make good stories and characters. Exactly, dude. That's all it comes down to, man. The scariest thing to me about all this is that they're somewhere along the way. Oh my God. Sorry, dude. These wind gusts are getting fucking nuts out there, bro. Make sure I'm not getting some kind of like weather alert. I'm not trying to get taken out in the middle of my stream here. Well, listen, I think the scariest thing about all this is that somewhere along the way, what you just said right there was removed from the equation by so many people. Where it's like, exactly, like, who cares about people's views on things? We all know everybody has different views and everybody has different opinions. And we all know that we're going to encounter that at certain points in time, whether that be directly through people we know and love, indirectly, right? Through people that maybe we just are watching, but also in our media. Like, different views are not new. It's always about pressing those views onto people in, again, like, just ways that are antithetical to what your actual, like, what your goal is supposed to be. Your goal in entertainment is exactly what you're saying. Tell good stories, create interesting characters, or even if it's like music, like, make good music that people like and relate to. That's the goal. And the more aggressive you get in, like, yeah, but I feel this way about this and I gotta tell people and people gotta understand, it's like, yes, but there's a smart way to do that will actually resonate and be successful. And there's a stupid way to do that will just make people aggressive towards you. Which way do you want to go? And that's where I just think it's like, you know, like, people are saying, hey, who said that the character from Fable, the woman from Fable, why can't she have a great personality? Huh? Why can't people just like her for her great personality? Guess what? People would if they didn't know what you were trying to do. That's the fucking problem. I'm telling you, dude, no one actually gives a shit how the woman from Fable looks. Who fucking cares, dude? People look like that all around the world. Yes, there's a lot of ugly people, right? Maybe I'm ugly. I don't know. I don't care. Everybody looks how they look. It's because people know. They have exposed themselves. People understand this isn't just about, this isn't about just, oh yeah, we just made a normal looking female. Like, no, it's not about that. We know what your fucking goal is. We know what your agenda is. We know. You've been caught red-handed multiple times. So you could almost argue that the conversation isn't even about that anymore. It's about the real bullshit behind the curtain that people are tired of. So good job. As I said, you guys wanted to make ugly ass characters and make people love them for their personality. You could have done it. But you ruined it. You just had to have it all aggressively, didn't you? Oh, man. Did you see the Fable actress? She's actually pretty. It's just the rude way that they portray these characters. Yeah, that's the weirdest shit to me, dude. Is they actually make these characters significantly, like, uglier than their actual actors or actresses. It's like, what is up with that? That is so bizarre to me. Yeah, it's frustrating, man. It is, because people just can't be fucking normal or reasonable anymore. That's what frustrates me the most. People just can't be reasonable about anything. It's like, you're going to fucking accept this character's hideous and you're going to love her and you're going to like it. It's like, dude, fuck, man. Like, couldn't you just make a good, cool character? You know? Couldn't you just do that? Anyway. Irfan, you're saying MBG, I'm from the East, and I can tell you this is more of a thing in the West. I don't see things like this in a lot of countries. Yeah, it does seem to be more prevalent in the West, like much more so. And I don't know. I've heard there have been like theories out there before that it's like, it's actually like conspiracy theories that claim that this is all purposely manufactured. Like it's artificially and purposely manufactured to keep people distracted and engaged in like a kind of like cold civil war, so to speak. So you're not actually paying attention to the real bullshit going on that's happening right in front of your fucking face. And it's like, yeah, that kind of makes too much sense. It's frightening how much sense that actually makes, because it's like, holy shit, there is like when people step out of their fucking, echo chambers and shit and start to actually look at the people up at the top actually making decisions that impact you as well as the person you're fighting with. Maybe they're the fucking enemy, if not the enemy, like the possible threat here that's doing damage to your everyday fucking life. I think people have been conditioned to believe that like, no, it's just that person over there. It's like, yeah, maybe, but really though, when it comes to your actual everyday life. But then again, when you look at the top, right? Like when you do zoom out and you look at the top, that it's honestly, it's all connected. It's all tethered together where it's just, we're seeing the bottom of it, like the trickle down, but when you look at the top, the same exact things are happening up top. And that's, did you guys see that movie? It was trending recently on Twitter. It came out on Netflix. It's the one about the end of the world with Julia Roberts, and Ethan Hawke. Can somebody give me the name of this movie? I just love how IP Gaming. Here's the first chat I see. But Japan has sex robots. Yes, they do. I guess. Leave the world behind. Thank you. Yeah. So one of the things that I thought was awesome about that movie, Leave the World Behind, is there was like this scene where I forget which character gave this monologue, but he basically was explaining that nobody actually has control over anything, like at all. Like nobody actually knows what they're doing. And it's basically just one giant fucking clusterfuck free-for-all out here where people are just trying to do their best to have what we would consider power, but in reality, nobody actually has power over anything. And at any moment, it could all collapse. And I'm like, God damn, why does that? I think that's true. Like, that seems to be true. Like, look at the president of the United States of America. That has to be true, right? Like, there's something so wrong here. Meanwhile, there are sex robots in their vending machines in Japan. According to my chat, I can't confirm or deny that. That's according to my chat. What are we talking about again? We're talking about video games, exclusives. I got to get back to I got to get a grip here. Safety and security is the biggest lie. You're probably right about that. I mean, I think too many people, because like that's the thing is like what happens when people don't feel safe and secure? They start to panic. Gothmog, you're saying nice Alice Cooper shirt. Thanks, man. Yeah, this is when I saw him in 2012, I think, with Iron Maiden. Great show. Couldn't fucking hear anything after it. But I mean, yeah, when you think about how would people react if they don't have, if they're told you're not safe and you're not secure, people will panic. But in reality, it's like, dude, anything can happen to you at any moment. I'm not trying to scare anybody. It's just true. You could walk out your front door and get hit by a fucking 18-wheeler. All right, maybe that's pretty unlikely, but the point is like anything can happen to you at any moment. You just don't know. So the best rule, I don't live by this rule. I would like to. I have too much anxiety and whatnot, but the best way to live is don't live in fear, like just fucking live understanding that, dude, your time is limited and enjoy what you can. Easier said than done, man. We're biologically not programmed to live that way. Just putting that out there. But, I come across these videos and see, I walked out my front door. I got hit by an 18-wheeler. It happens sometimes, But But dude, I see these like videos and these channels popping up where they're like, you need to prepare now, like the collapse is coming. And I'm just like, whatever, man. You know, I'm a Tool fan, so of course I you know, let the end come, whatever. You know, wash it away. I'm cool. I'm just gonna enjoy my time while I can. Because you know what nobody ever stops and asks themselves, like, I got to prepare for the apocalypse. I got to prepare for the worst when society collapses. I want to be a survivor. It's like, but do you though? Like, did you actually think about what life would be like after that? Is that really how you want to live? Like, maybe the answer is yes. But I've seen enough post-apocalyptic movies and shows and played enough post-apocalyptic games to know that, like, holy shit, maybe everybody who died are the lucky ones, and the survivors are truly the punished ones here, because shit's not pretty, man. The world is ending. What is the one thing MBG grabs? My PS5, of course, and physical games collection. So at least if I make it, you know, I'll be able to just game. Also, that movie I was just talking about, the one about the end of the world, Leave the World Behind. Dude, the ending of that movie is a huge it's like a huge shout out to physical media, where spoilers if you didn't see this movie, but basically the entire movie, the little girl is trying to finish the season finale of Friends on her iPad, and because the world is coming, as we know it is coming to an end, there's no internet. And it's like that's all that matters to her, is like she just wants to see the end of this show. She just wants to know how it ends. And by the very end of the movie, they come across this like insane bunker, like this survival, you know, fallout bunker. And one of the things that's there is a massive collection of physical DVDs and Blu-rays. And she found the collection, the Friends DVD, and she was able to physically put the disc in the DVD player and watch the ending that way. And I was like, that's awesome. I love how even in this movie about the world ending, they're still they're shining a light on the importance of physical media. Good stuff, man. I mean, in a way, it's almost like, you know, yeah, like we got to preserve art or whatever, but good stuff. Blow Up the Outside World is one of your favorite songs. Same here, bro. Soundgarden, amazing song. Very deep song. It's an intense song. The Walking Woke. You guys are funny. Lucky Ray Gun, you're saying here, I hope companies take a look at the, or sorry, I read that one already. We got B Flesher. B Flesher says, these people view every big project or franchise as their own little Trojan horse, where people don't realize what's happening until it's too late. Yeah, I think you might be right about that, man. Because like, I thought it was so weird that clip was trending of I don't know if it was like it wasn't a TED talk, it was like a GDC talk or something, where the founder of Sweet Baby Inc. literally just said that when these companies don't want to give you your way, you know, you find their marketing teams, you sit down, you have a conversation with them, and you scare the shit out of them, you know? And it's like, wow, that's God forbid you just, you know, have a good pitch and make good logical sense as to why these companies should consider, you know, your consultancy group. But yeah, let's just scare the shit out of them. That's real nice. I think you're right, dude. I think we're starting to see that a little bit. Yeah, she admitted to extortion. I mean, basically. So yeah, unfortunately, it seems like that is happening more and more. B Flesher. We got Perfect Image here, member for 10 months, saying, hey, MBG, why is old Sony CEO hates exclusives? For me, I've always liked PlayStation because the controller fits my hand and looks better. Xbox never had good games. What do you think? I love how Perfect Image just drops all this shit in a single sentence. Like, yo, why does Sony's old CEO hate exclusives? By the way, Xbox never had good games and the PlayStation controller's better and it fits my hands better. What do you think? Perfect image, never change, bro. Well, I don't think that Shawn Layden hates exclusives. To kind of clarify, he's just what Shawn Layden's basically saying is that as long as the budgets of these video games, based comment, yeah, as long as the budget of these AAA games continue to increase substantially, it is going to eventually become the Achilles heel, where it's like, what happens when video games become $400 million and you can only sell at most 12 million copies or 10 million copies? You know, it's like, well, yeah, that would be the Achilles heel. So it's not that he has because he did say that exclusivity will always be important, but he's just explaining that it's going to become a lot less important if these budgets don't get under control, if they continue to compound, you know, every generation. So yeah, that's basically what he's saying. When it comes to controllers, I've always loved the Xbox controller. I like the DualSense the best at this point, but I've always loved the Xbox controller. And honestly, I think both Sony and Microsoft have come so far with the controllers, with the ergonomics. I think they both feel amazing in the hands. But I will say, since I've gotten so used to the DualSense, the last time I held an Xbox controller, it did feel like tiny to me. I'm like, damn, this feels a lot smaller. And I don't really have big hands either. You know, I don't have like tiny hands, but I didn't realize like how much bigger the DualSense in a way feels from the Xbox controller. But even when holding the Xbox controller, it's just the ergonomics of it is it's so good, man. It really is. I think the Xbox controller is great, but yeah, I can't deny the DualSense at this point is my favorite controller. Yeah, I use the DualSense Edge. It's really interesting too, is like when I've been using the DualSense Edge for so long that when I pick up a regular DualSense, it's like, wow, this thing feels like it's like nice how light it feels. I guess I get so used to how heavy the Edge is. And yeah, I agree. Xbox never had good games. I'm just kidding. I mean, I kind of do. I don't want to say that they never had good games, but I just don't think, you know, it's interesting because it's like Shawn Layden says, hey, the reason why exclusives are going to be important or always going to be important is because they're the games that are going to be there to show off your platform, the technical features, like do things with your games that most other games can't. And I feel like Sony has absolutely achieved that mostly, right? To whereas Xbox has not, dude. And I think that's one of the biggest problems with Xbox is that there's always been this kind of expectation of like, well, if you guys want people to buy your fucking console and care about your ecosystem, like you have to impress people. Let's face it, man, there has to be a wow factor. And if that wow factor isn't there, if that charm isn't there, because I feel like that's what Nintendo has. Nintendo has that charm, man, that can't be replicated. Xbox doesn't have the wow factor. They don't have the charm. They've had to buy studios that have that, you know? And again, man, I know people want to blame the fucking industry as a whole. Hey, man, it's the industry, right? It's consoles are dying. It's like, or, you know, maybe it's not that simple. Maybe it's just that Microsoft failed to do their job where Sony and Nintendo succeeded. And now, you know, too many people on the internet are trying to convince people that, well, no, Sony and Nintendo are, they're wrong. They're getting left behind or whatever. It's like, no, I don't think so. I think it's just that this is the position Microsoft's in. They have to do this. But you know what? This works out. Like, again, seeing Sea of Thieves hit the #1 spot, doing so well on PlayStation, it's like, there you go. Xbox never had good games. Well, Sea of Thieves was a good game. Seemingly. Everybody's saying, like, this is a good game from Xbox. So, but we'll see, man. I just like PlayStation better. I know, like, it's like an unpopular thing, and I just don't know that I give a shit anymore how unpopular, because who cares? I don't care how popular or unpopular it is. Like, PlayStation still fucking kills it, dude. They do. Like, I don't care if, oh, you're a fanboy and blah, blah. It's like, all right, that's cool. But PlayStation still fucking kills it, as far as I'm concerned. Do they need to improve in some areas? Of course. Is it perfect? No. Certainly not now. It's not perfect, but they still fucking kill it. Like, I'm a satisfied customer, man. And I can't sit here and pretend to be like, I fucking hate fucking Sony. What are they doing? Fucking everything. Like, no, I like what Sony's doing. Like, I'm enjoying PlayStation, man. Like, that's the weirdest thing to me, dude, is like the past, I'd say 6 months in particular, it's been like so bad where people are like, you can't enjoy it. What are you talking about? PlayStation sucks now, dude. They're collapsing. Their games are. I'm just like, I like PlayStation. I'm cool. I have some criticisms, yes, but it's a fucking crime to admit you enjoy something these days. Yeah, maybe that's a general thing. Maybe it's not just exclusive to PlayStation. One thing that's not exclusive to PlayStation is maybe that. Saying I'm just playing games, man. Yeah. I like having the conversations about the platforms. Rudy, you're saying, why am I ignoring you? Hold on. I'm not ignoring you. I must have missed what you said. Rudy, I'll try to type it in again. I'll see if I can catch it. Saying the 360 controller is probably the best controller for you. The 360 controller was awesome. I always loved the 360 controller. Xbox games peaked at Halo and Gears. Am I doing a members launch today? Yeah, I'm going to do a members launch for a little while. What do you guys think of this topic? I had this video up. I was thinking about reacting to this video in the members lounge, but I don't know. I've never watched this guy before. Has 181,000 views. The 10 things men do to destroy their lives. Does that sound like something you guys would be interested in listening? I don't know. I'm not sure. We're going to learn to be better men. The PS4 controller is your favorite? Jay Shako says no. Please, God, no. Light says no. No, you guys don't want it. All right. Well, hey, that I have a couple different things there. But yeah, we're gonna do a members launch for a little bit. Well, Lights, you're not even a member though. But where are we at here? Okay, so we're past the 3.5 hour mark. Pragmatic Cat's like, not really. I guess maybe that's too intense for the members lounge. Yeah, Gaming Survivor, that would be shitty. Oh, you're on this. That account's branded. It's your other account. Okay. All right. No one wants to watch it, so you know what you got to do. We're watching it anyway. No. All right. Well, I did cover all the topics that I wanted to go through today. There actually was one other one that I forgot to mention, and this is just really brief. I probably should have mentioned this at the very beginning. I make this mistake frequently, but Silent Hill 2 Remake has been officially rated in South Korea. This is kind of significant because usually when we see a rating like this, it indicates that the game is very, very, very close to launching. So, take that for what it is. But here's what we're going to do. I'm going to close out this stream, and I'm going to head over to the members lounge. I really don't know if I have a theme for the members lounge today. But either way, it could just be a more free-flowing members lounge where we just kind of chat. Who knows what kind of conversations will be sparked up. But yeah, I'm going to create that in a little bit. So I'm going to just segue to the outro here, where I want to thank all of you guys for your continued support. We hit 27 members today. So we did clear the goal of 25. So thank you guys so much for making that happen. This channel is fan funded. You know, I'm only able to do this because of the support that you guys show during these streams, among, you know, watching the videos and stuff. So thank you guys for doing that. And thank you for all of the super chats as well. Got some generous super chats today. Shout out to you guys for doing that. And yeah, just a big shout out to this community in general for continuing to support the channel, the content, and myself. It's and the community. So also want to make sure I give a shout out to Devil Shooter for doing the timestamps. He does a great job with the timestamps. If you see him in the comment section with them, just give him a thank you. Show him some love. I know he really appreciates that. And so, yeah, the members lounge will probably be going up in the next 10 or 15 minutes or so. So look out for that. I hope to see you guys over there. But to anybody who's not going to join me in the members lounge, I will catch you guys in the next proper stream. So that does it. Hit that like button on your way out. I hope you all have a good rest of your day, and I will catch everybody in the next one. So until then, guys, take care.